let's go ahead and let's see, we have everybody here. Mr. Driscoll's here. Let's go ahead and bring this this portion of the meeting to order, Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. Before us right now is our closed session item on the agenda, which is conference with labor negotiations. And currently we'll be taking any public comment just on this one item of conference with labor negotiations, if there's any public comment at this time. I see no attendees. We could wait for, there's nobody calling in, no phone calls. So we'll go ahead and close public comment. At this time, we will adjourn to closed session and we will see you back here at 5 p.m. See you there. Thank you. All right, it is 5 o'clock and it's showtime. Let's, this is the Plattsville City Council regularly scheduled meeting. It is open session at 5 p.m. and it is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. And so I'd like to bring this meeting to order. And first thing on the list is to a pledge of allegiance. If we can have a flag, please, and all join me. There it is. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you very much. Ms. O'Connell, roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Here.
Councilmember No?
Here.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Here.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Mayor Thomas?
It's not the same if you don't do that. Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And ceremonial matters, and this is a really a great thing to be talking about right now. Recognition of Day of Service organizers and volunteers. Mr. Zeller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes, as you said, the purpose of this item is to recognize Amy Sellers and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for organizing and volunteering the Rise and Shine Day of Community Service. So the city's been fortunate over many years to have a great base of volunteers that do a lot of great things for the city and make it a more beautiful place to live. And the Day of Service is something that it was started 6 years ago, but since we had our COVID year last year, this is the 5th annual, skipping 2020. And this event would not take place if it wasn't for Amy Sellers and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints putting a lot of effort and a lot of organization into it. So I'm in debt to Amy and the church, who are always at the forefront of this particular event. And they provide the structure. Amy does all the coordinating. She sets up the site. She makes it a pleasure to have this every year and allows myself and the crew to focus on delivering the things that help this day really be a success. So this year, I thought I would mention this, the volunteers were able to accomplish weed abatement and trash pickup on over 3 miles of our trail. 6 of our playgrounds did get the playground safety surfacing to keep the fall zones safe and secure for the kids. We had 13 different organized groups, and they were tackling weeds, brush, and general cleanup on a total of 6 acres of parks and cemeteries. And I know a lot of people listening in on this, including the council, have participated, and it happens with everybody's help. And also we were able to pick up 40 cubic yards of green waste and 10 cubic yards of trash. And then we were able to do painting of benches, restrooms and tables throughout the city parks. So it's also worth considering that the over 300 volunteers that were there for half a day is equal to around 6 weeks of work from my crew that can be done by the 4-man crew plus the superintendent. And so we are very grateful to Amy and the church. And I would like to have the city council recognize Amy Sellers and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for all of their continued organization, their help with the city, and their devotion to this Rise and Shine Day of service. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Terry. And several of us participated in that day of giving back. And I, for one, had I've been doing it for a few years now. I think Wendy actually talked me into it the first time, and I've been doing it ever since, and it's been a great thing. Amy, would you like to say a few words? And could you unmute yourself maybe?
Oh, maybe.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to work with the city. As Just Serve, we love to have opportunities for people to volunteer because as they contribute, they just become more invested in their community. And so I love that the city's provided this opportunity for us to all work together on one day and really have an impact, and it's really fun. So thanks for playing along, I guess, and letting us be a part of Placerville. It's been a pleasure.
Wow. The work that how many hours do you put in on this project?
Oh, probably between 40 and 50 before the day of.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Wow.
we had over 300 volunteers this year, and everybody worked between, well, some of the projects got done quickly this time. So between 2 and 4 hours.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Probably had a lot of man hours total in the project.
Well, from the city of Placerville, I want to thank you because I just know what a difference it makes. And when we started looking at the number of man hours it would take for our staff to do what we did in one day, it's practically a full-time position for 1 year. And yeah, it's a lot of hours. If you think of 300 people, 4 hours, that's 1,200. It's about half-time position, but it's a lot of work, and it was pretty amazing. Any other council members have any comments?
Oh, I just, want to echo that thank you. I think I participated every year. We were talking about the colored t-shirts that we have from each year. Really fun event. So great getting together. Every year there seems to be a story. Like the very first year I did it, a family had some boys who had, some confidence in other issues. And she said it just made such a difference for them to be able to help, and everybody walking by saying thank you. And, it serves on so many levels. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart, Amy.
Oh, no, you were one of our standout team leaders. We appreciate you. And my favorite story this time was from a lady who just moved to Placerville this year, Patricia, and she had signed up to lead a team because she lives next to one of the parks that we chose as a project. And she did a great job, and she got to know some people and had a really fun time. So she feels really connected to the city now.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
I would just like to echo the sentiments that have been stated. I've participated in the last two Rise and Shine Day with my young daughter, and it was just really fun. And like Jackie mentioned, it was nice to get her out in a way that she's helping. And we were on the trail this last Rise and Shine, and everyone walking by was thanking us, and it was just a real big confidence boost, I think, for her. And it was just nice, and working with the volunteers was a real joy. Everyone was so hardworking and so nice, and it's great to see the community out working together. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Patty.
I was just going to say this certificate seems inadequate, but it comes with so much love and affection for Amy and all she does. And I also want to express my gratitude and my thank yous.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
All right, I am going to open this up for public comment for just a moment. If there's anybody that would like to have any comments, now would be the time. All right. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. And again, Amy, I can't, Cleve, did you?
I'm sorry, you could finish. I just want to mention, Amy mentioned it in what she stated, but I want to put a reminder out there. She mentioned Just Serve. It's justserve.org, right, Amy? You can go on there anytime if you find you have an opportunity and would like to serve. There's multiple opportunities throughout the county to provide service in our community and outside of Placerville also. But big jobs, ongoing jobs, small jobs, we try to have a lot on there, and the church maintains that website and puts that out there. So on both sides, if you know of a project, please let us know. If you would like to do something, you can simply from the app go in there and find that and select a project to do. So thank you.
Well, thanks again for making our town just a little more beautiful on that day. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much. All right, moving on to our next item for ceremonial matters, Memorial Day Proclamation. And you know, it was truly an honor to present this proclamation at the Veterans Monument, and it was pre-recorded, and so it was. It's going to be played here, I guess, on Memorial Day, and so but no buts. This is probably one of the most important things that I think I could do as mayor, and that is to honor those that gave their lives for this country over the years and decades, centuries, to keep the freedoms that we have. And so in that light, generally we say, here's the proclamation, and you can read it. But on this day, I would like to read this proclamation because to me, it's that important. Plus, I lost my grandfather in basic training for World War II. He never made it to the war. He died in basic training, and it has a special meaning here in my family as well. So a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Plattsville declaring May 31st, 2021 as Memorial Day at El Dorado County Veterans Monument. We are blessed beyond measure by the sacred freedoms we enjoy as American citizens. We recognize that the price of freedom and liberty is high, and that the price has been paid in the sacrifice of the brave men and women who have laid down their own lives in defense of our great nation and her founding ideals we hold so sacredly. And whereas on Veterans Day, you know, we honor those who serve valor with courage, valor, and distinction in the United States Armed Forces. It is on Memorial Day we have the opportunity and duty to offer our prayerful respect and gratitude to our nation's veterans and their families who have paid the ultimate price in securing the American way of life we so fully enjoy. And the essence of tribute was poignantly captured by then Congressman James Garfield in 1868 Decoration Day address at the Arlington, where he said, "The silence is ever golden. It must be here beside the graves of 15,000 men whose lives were more significant than speech and whose death was a poem, the music of which can never be sung." And whereas this Memorial Day, I would like to draw additional attention to those that have served and died in current conflicts, to recognize the freedoms that are exercised in today's political climate continues because our current generation is fighting battles, losing their lives abroad to ensure our freedom at home. Now, therefore, I, Dennis Thomas, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Placerville, state of California, do hereby proclaim May 31st, 2021 as Memorial Day. Let us join with the hearts of a grateful nation as we embrace the day of remembrance in honoring the generations of Americans who have fought and died to secure our blessings of liberty. May God bless their sacrifice as we honor their gifts. Thank you for indulging me as I read that. Any comments? Okay. All right. I don't see any hands up. We're going to go ahead and move on to, let's see. Closed session report with City Attorney, Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. Tonight in closed session, the council ratified an agreement with Local 39. The key terms of that agreement are as follows. There was on July 15th, 2021, the city shall pay Local 39 bargaining unit members a one-time distribution equal to 2% of salary, with a minimum of $500 for full-time employees and $250 for part-time. Also included in the agreement is effective July 1st of 2021, Local 39 bargaining unit shall receive a 2% general salary increase. Also included is the previous on-call rate increase will be effective retroactively and paid on January 1st, 2021. The city is also going to complete a salary survey within 1 year. And additionally, previous agreements relating to health benefit contribution and vacation buyout provisions were also affirmed. And it was by unanimous vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Driscoll. Any comments on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll open it up for public comment. Ms. O'Connell.
It is now open for item 4, closed session. If you're joining by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. And then when I call on you, press *6 to unmute yourself.
All right, seeing no hands up, we'll go ahead and close public comment. And since we have already voted on it, at this point, this item is an informational item only, and we'll bring back a full contract for ratification at City Council at a future date. So moving on from closed session report, can we get a motion to adopt the agenda? And if there's any changes anybody would like to make?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got a first and a second. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Borelli,
Aye.
Councilmember No.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Thomas.
Aye. All right, thank you very much. Moving on, announcements and presentations to the public, brief comments by City Council. I'm going to start with Councilmember No.
Let's see, last week I attended, I can almost talk. I attended the budget workshop, and on Saturday, I attended the May is Bike Month with Vice Mayor Taylor was there. It's a great event they have every year, and honoring Bob Smart and Bill Krim this year, who are longtime advocates for the trail and bicycling in the area, and just have done so much that we enjoy, but it's really the labors of those who went before us. And so really appreciate them, and that's it.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Borelli.
Well, I also did the budget, did a lot of Zoom calls, and unfortunately, I don't ride a bicycle anymore, so I couldn't participate, but I did go to Bob Smart's funeral, and lots of wonderful accolades given him in remembering him for all he did for the city.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Zaragoza.
Turn myself back on mute.
There you go.
No, I just want to thank the public, those that attended the budget workshops, both the first and second. You know, it's the most important work we do all year, is to come up with the budget for the city and what the priorities are going to be. And I just want to thank those that took the time to weigh in and give their opinions and thoughtfulness on issues that affect all of us. So I just wanted to do that. I didn't get a chance to do that at our last two, but wanted to just make that comment. So thank you.
Thank you. And Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yeah, I'd like to echo the comment that Michael just said. That took it right out of my mouth. I wanted to thank those that attended. That is, you know, arguably the most important strategic thing that we work on throughout the year. And some people sat, you know, all the way through it and chimed in, and it was very much appreciated. And as Jackie mentioned, I attended the May Bike Month ride with my family, the baby in the bicycle chariot, and my 7-year-old on her little bike. And it was a very slow, leisurely ride, but we had a great time, and it was fun to be part of such a great event and to see so many people out enjoying the trail. So that's all the comments I have right now.
All right, thank you, Kara. And for me, I had the opportunity to go and speak with the Rotary Club about all things Placerville, and they had a lot of questions about all things Placerville, for which were a lot of interesting and important questions, and I thought they were very dialed into what's going on, and I truly appreciated all their thoughts and consideration that they have for the city. You know, these we have several clubs in town that just really go out of their way to do and support our community in so many ways. And all the way from just, you know, they had a whole list of things and events that they were working on, cleanup days, you know, going down. They cleaned up the caboose this last weekend, and that was their project. You know, they cleaned up and weed eated around the caboose. Last time they weeded around our entry sign, and they work on Rotary Park up there where they're talking about dealing with some of the blackberry bushes and some of the other things going on. They're just on a regular basis, they're doing things. And I know Kiwanis is out there doing the same thing. I'm not going to get into who's doing it better, but certainly the Rotary Club did display a great care for our community. And with that, I express a lot of appreciation for them. Another thing, on June 12th, we're going to be having Hangtown Days. I wanted to let everybody know it's a great family fun and friendly event to go to. It'll be downtown Placerville. The streets will be closed starting at noon. The event starts, now don't get that confused, the event starts at 2 o'clock. And so they're going to have all sorts of live history. Wagon train will be arriving at 3:15, music with 2 different bands. They're going to have a stick horse race. And I don't know if that's for the kids or the adults. Either way, it probably will be entertaining. And they'll have a skit at the bell tower, and they'll have a couple bands in the evening with music. So, and it'll be wrapping up at 8 o'clock. So from 5 to 8 is the music. So I think that's going to be a very fun, family-friendly event that you could all go to. And it's a great way to kind of kickstart our summer and for people to get out and have a good time. So I encourage you to go check that out. A lot about local history and what's going on. So with that, I think I'm done with my report. Yes, that is it for me. So we're going to move on to, yes, sir.
I just wanted to make quickly about our governance workshop.
Oh, yes.
As you recall, that had been scheduled actually for this Thursday, the 27th. We have postponed that with the hope that in the near future, we're still working on a date to schedule it, but that we will be able to meet in person for that. So for those, if anybody had that on their calendar, that will not be held this Thursday, and we will make sure we announce when that is scheduled.
Thank you. And I did forget one more thing. One of the things that none of us mentioned is we had a really good discussion about what it looks like to spend, to consider spending the, I can't remember what it's called now. Not the CARES, is it CARES money?
ARPA.
ARPA money.
ARPA.
The American Recovery Act plan, something like that. And it's 2.1, it's what now 2.6 million. So we just got word today that of the final number. And so we had a great discussion, and we look forward to having another meeting in the future to maybe a special meeting just to focus on that, to kind of make some decisions as a community, how we would like to move forward with that. So there was engaged. We had great public comment, and if you missed the budget meeting, you missed out on that. It was good. So with that, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. All matters in the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote, unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. And so with that, any items, any discussion on consent calendar? Okay, nothing to pull. Okay, I would like to make one comment in that our fiscal year 2021, it is buried in our consent calendar. Not I'm sorry, not that. The what is it? Our core, I'm sorry, our core, I looked down and read what I was looking at. The HDL sales tax and economic report. And one of the reasons why it's in there is because it's good. It's really, it's you know, the sales tax report is good for our city, and it's not causing us a lot of heartburn. And so it's in there for the quarter. And I think that's a great place for it to be, because that means it's not a big issue, and the money's rolling in. So I just wanted to comment on that one item. So with that, if we could get a motion.
I'll make a motion.
All right, I
second
heard Patty
that.
first, and we got Michael second.
Public comment on these.
And usually what I do is I call for a motion,
Okay.
and then we do public comment after that, and then we do a roll call vote. So with that, Miss O'Connell, would you help me with public comment, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public comment is now open for item 7. This is the consent calendar.
All right. All right, seeing no hands up, we'll close public comment and bring it back for a roll call vote, please, Ms. O'Connell.
Councilmember Borelli,
Aye.
Councilmember No.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Thomas.
Aye. All right, thank you very much. So the next time on our agenda is public comment. However, that is reserved for a time certain at 6 p.m. So we're going to move on to the next agenda items until we hit 6 p.m. And which is our public hearing. So we have no items pulled from the consent calendar. We have no ordinance to discuss, which is item 10. Item 11, and in particular 11.1, is consider the following regarding Green Valley Road. It is an appeal through the Planning Commission, and I will turn this over to Mr. Rivas for his report out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just a quick caveat before I get started. It is a very lengthy looking agenda item. It's actually very, very simple. So hopefully there won't be much fanfare over this appeal project. So just to recap, on April the 6th, the Planning Commission approved the site plan review for the proposed Geartooth Ale Works, and that's located at 7553 Green Valley Road. The proposed brewery would be located within the middle parcel of 3, which all share a common parking area. JAJ Green Valley Road LLC, that's the owner of one of the properties, is appealing the condition of approval that requires that the gate that is located on the adjoining property to allow access to an additional parking, there's 6 stalls, to meet the minimum parking demands of the new Geartooth Brew Pub. This property is located on the south side of the proposed brewery site. It is currently a dog training facility that is permitted under conditional use permit and under a license issued by the El Dorado County Animal Services. This gate is to remain closed during any training activities or the presence of dogs for safety. The applicant has since modified the maximum seating from 72 seats to 63 seats. This then reduces the required parking stalls from 18 to 16. This then would eliminate the need for any additional parking and thus the requirement to remove the gate. Thus the requirement for condition 12 that is being appealed. So staff is recommending that the council approve site plan review 20-05 that would include approval of the site plan and reducing the seating capacity of Geartooth to 63 seats and uphold the appeal and further delete the condition of approval number 12 requiring the removal of the gate as recommended in the staff report. And with that, I would just add in, staff would just add in hindsight that the original action would have been more appropriately, would have been to require the reduction in the seating, not to exceed the available parking. Staff agrees that condition 12 runs afoul of the conditional use permit approved for competitive canine, which a site plan review application cannot modify and affect an approved use on another property. So with that, that concludes staff's report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
So I do have one question there, Pierre.
Hey.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but these two people, competitive K9 and L-Works people, got together, figured out a solution amongst themselves and came up with a reasonable way to deal with this?
Yes, that is correct.
Instead of fighting about it and all that, right?
That's correct.
Wow. I hope we could do more of that.
Yes, it's very, very simple. And unfortunately, since the appeal was filed, we didn't want to go through the administrative process.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then the council has the ability to actually delete condition number 12.
All right. Thank you very much, Pierre.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other comments? Seeing none, Ms. O'Connell, if we could open it up for public comment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Shall we first hear from the appellant? If they would like to speak, if they're on.
I guess so. I don't see the hand up for anybody that looks like the appellant.
Okay, shall we move on to the applicant? If the applicant is wanting to address the city council, now would be the time.
Pierre, do you know if they're on? Anybody from either?
No, staff is not aware that either the appellant or the applicant was going to attend this meeting. Staff is making the assumption that everything has been resolved, and this is just a perfunctory process to go through and have the council then approve this action and basically delete condition 12.
All right.
All
Thank you,
right,
Peter.
we will begin with Mandy Rodriguez. Go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in and say that's really awesome. And I would like to see more cooperation between businesses and between town hall and the city council and businesses. Don't you think that would be great if we all could work together and help businesses get open, like work with them? Wouldn't that be great, you guys? I think so. I just really warms my heart that these people got together and worked it out, and it benefits everybody. Thanks.
All right, Sue Rodman, go ahead.
Good evening, council. Isn't it great to see a real win-win? When two people get together and they figure out a solution and everybody can agree and everybody gets a win from this one. And I think it's wonderful. And I agree with Mandy, we should have more of it. Thank you.
Ann McClellan,
right.
go ahead.
Thank you.
Hi there. I just wanted to say, I'd like to go on record of thanking Jay Gantz, who is Gear Truth Fairworks, for his willingness to understand what the issue was and the impact of my business, which is essentially, had he not been willing to work with us, my doors would have to close. So I really sincerely thank him for his willingness to make a modification, which then allowed us to go to the city staff who supported us, and everybody wins. You know, we're getting a great new brewery, and our business has just expanded to our phase 2. And so we're excited about moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. All right, seeing no further hands up for public comment, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the council for any further comments or vote. Or motion, actually.
Just a quick comment. Like the speakers just mentioned, I wanted to acknowledge the effort that the Gearworks owner is taking. It's no small thing reducing your seating capacity for a restaurant by 10 to 15%. That's a real sacrifice and a real good neighbor attempt right there, and it should be applauded. And I also just want to say that I'm really looking forward to having a new brewery and Southern food. And that whole area of town with the nursery that just opened up there is, it's just cool to see people investing in that part of town. So I'm happy to see this moving forward.
Right, thank you. Yes, Patty.
I just have to agree with Kara. As you know, I've been beating the drum for Placerville Drive, and it just seems like more and more we're seeing more businesses, you know, willing to come down there and open up. And I'm very happy with the whole situation too.
Thank you, Patty. All right, seeing no further comments, if we get a motion.
I'll move for staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli,
Aye.
Councilmember No,
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Thomas.
Aye. All right, thank you, Mr. Rivas. Good work. All right, moving on to item number 11.2, adopt a resolution approving the fire development impact fee juror justification study dated April 2nd, 2021.
Mayor, before we start that item, I wanted to check with, Mr. Cordero, Chief Cordero, excuse me, has his consultant coming on to answer questions on this item. I don't think he was going to present anything, just answer questions. I believe, Tim, you said he's on his way. Is that correct? But I don't know if you feel we need to delay this item and wait for him to be here. He was expecting it to be a little bit later at my advice, so that's my fault. So, Tim.
Thank you, Cleve. He should be logging on shortly. I just talked to him a few minutes ago, so he does have access as a panelist. So I think hopefully we'll see him log in here in a minute. But I think if you and Pierre want to start with the presentation or the staff report, we can hopefully have him on in just a minute for us to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Rivas, I believe it's the ball's in your court.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. El Dorado County Fire is requesting that the city adopt an updated fire impact fee that would be applied to new development, which will mitigate the direct and cumulative impacts of new development on fire protection services, and that all new development pay for its fair share of the costs of new infrastructure, facilities, and equipment commensurate with the accepted fire protection level of service. Like all impact fees, such as traffic impact fees or park impact fees, typically a fee study is prepared in accordance with the State Mitigation Fee Act. The study calculates the cost to recover future facilities to maintain the existing level of service or to meet the adopted level of service consistent with the city's general plan. The impact fee is collected upon issuance of a building permit and is applied on new construction on a square footage basis. With the exception of multifamily residential and office construction, the new fees show a reduction from the current fee. So that's always nice to be able to say. Staff is recommending, one, approving the fire development impact fee justification study, and then two, approving the El Dorado County Fire Protection District Development Impact Fee Schedule that is contained within the resolution. These new fees would become effective 60 days following adoption or on July 24th of 2021. Chief Cordero is available to answer any questions on behalf of the fire district, and we hope that a representative from DTA will show, hopefully, if you have any detailed questions about the actual fee study. Staff is in receipt of some comments, email comments received from Nicole Gottberg, and I'm happy to quickly answer those. There are three questions and are actually very good questions, and the council may have these questions as well. One question is, which category or fee schedule would new development of a hotel or motel fall under? That would be commercial. Number two, do we have a fire impact fees for changing the use of an existing building? For example, if a commercial building which has a lower fee for a new development, which was later converted to multifamily residential building, which has a higher fee for the new development? That's a very good question. We have run into that with other impact fees. Typically, staff would look at the delta. So say if you went for a particular use with a lower fee and then you're changing that use to a higher fee, we would then just charge the delta on a square footage basis. So it'd be just the difference in that higher fee if it was a higher fee. Unfortunately, I don't think it works the other way. The third question is, how are fees assessed on mixed use buildings? For example, if the bottom floor of a building is retail and the second floor is multifamily residential. Well, again, this fee would be applied on a square footage basis, and we would break it out so that the square footage of the multifamily would pay the multifamily impact fee on a square footage basis, and then the commercial would pay the commercial impact fee. So that's how that would work. So with that, that concludes staff's report. I'm happy to answer any questions if I'm able to. I'm sure Chief Cordero could answer some, and I don't know if our consultant has arrived yet to if there's any questions that maybe only consultant can answer in regards to the highly involved methodologies that were employed to come up with these fees in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Do we have any questions at this time? All right. So seeing that, oh, look at, there we go.
Took me a while to get on, my apologies. I'm still getting the hang of this.
Not to worry, you are here. I don't think you missed anything that you don't already know.
I heard everything you said. I just couldn't get my camera going.
Perfect. All right. So we have you here. Now I'm going to check again. Is there any questions from staff right now for our consultant, Mr. Ruiz or Chief Gadar or Pierre? All right. Seeing none, Ms. O'Connell, if you could help us out with a public comment, please.
Public comment is now open for item 11.2. And if you're joining by phone, press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself.
We have a new face on here. Okay, Jeff. All right, seeing no hands up, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back. So we raise these fees and they go into a big pot where these fees go and they start accumulating, and they can only be used for special things. What kind of special things can these fees be used for?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can reach that if you'd like, Pierre.
Sure.
Thank you. So you are correct, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Those fees are, there are strict guidelines as what they can be used for. They can be used for development of new fire stations, new infrastructure. We are able to use portions of them to upgrade current existing structures if there's a need for a demand based on call volume or expansion within that area. There's also some limited applications for apparatus and equipment. Again, drawing that nexus back to the need based on the development that's occurred within the district.
So you can't use it for salaries and payroll, and you can't use it for necessarily remodeling a new firehouse unless that is adding additional services to an existing service that's already there. Is that,
You are correct. It cannot be used for salary and benefits and those type of operational items. With regards to a remodel or an expansion of a station, again, if we can show the need based on some increased development and stuff within the area, then those fees would be applicable and be able to use for that expansion and growth within those areas.
Right. This is Richard. Pardon me for interrupting. I just wanted to add a little bit of that. Chief is absolutely right. One of the things you cannot use the fees for are to make up for existing deficiencies. I mean, if you have a bad ceiling or holes in the walls, you can't go patch that up and use these fees. There has to be a nexus to the growth.
all right. So if we had a new 5-story building and we charged a fee for that and we needed a different kind of extension ladder to service that building, that would, or a ladder truck, that would go for something like that.
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay. All right. All right. Yes, Vice Mayor Taylor.
You know, as we move forward looking at a new public safety building with fire and police, how does that relate to these fees? Is there any calculations for a new, the fire share of a new public safety building? Or would that not be justified in the nexus?
I'll pop in. Yes, I believe that the expansion of a new facility, especially based on our existing needs with the growth that we've had and the need to expand the building to accommodate that, we could use those funds for a new replacement and expansion of Station 25 with the public safety building.
All right. That was a good question. Yes.
Another question. So I was pleased to see the numbers go down pretty much across the board with few exceptions. I was surprised to see that as well. I didn't think that we would ever, especially with the need for fire services increasing so much, I didn't think that we would see a decrease in fees. And just for the benefit of the public listening and all of us up here, could you just kind of quickly explain why the fees went down?
Sure. What we did is we recalculated based on the value of the fire stations. And honestly, when I look back and I see $1.10 across the board, I've never seen a fee schedule like that. You have to provide a connection between the land uses and the fees. They shouldn't be all the same. When we ran this, if you look at the residential, there are 3 areas of residential: single family, multifamily, mobile homes. And you might notice that multifamily is more expensive. You wonder why. Well, during this calculation, we use a square footage calculation. Single family residences and mobile homes have a higher number of square feet. So you factor that in, that goes into the denominator of an equation, results in a larger number. If you look at the slide that you were given, across the board, you look at all of the other fire districts, it's the same thing. The multifamily is going to be higher. And this is simply just a recalculation using your existing numbers.
All right, thank you, Richard. Any more questions here from council? Yes, Patty.
I don't have any questions, but I'm thinking that a lot of folks are thinking, oh my goodness, our fees are being lowered and that means we're not going to have the, the funds and everything. But I'd like to remind everybody to look at their tax bill, their property tax bill, and see how much that we do pay, for certain of these fire districts. And that's how a lot of funds are generated too. So it's not, it's not that we're going to, I don't think, lose money. It's just that it's being calculated and done at a fair, like Richard said, a different calculation. So
if I may add to that,
paying the fees.
I'm sorry, if I can add to that, one of the things that we do when we put these fees together is we want to make sure that they're defensible. They can't be challenged. The old fees are way out of date. That could be challenged by somebody. And now this we can defend. We could stand up in front of a panel and explain how we calculated every single one of those fees and why it makes sense. And that's something that's really, really important to you. You find that out usually down the road when somebody has an issue with it.
Yes, thank you very much. The and that is a big part of why we do these fees. If we cannot show it, and it's basically a nexus study. They need to determine the need of the fire district and match the fees to that need and the future need of growth. And if we do that incorrectly and we charge more than we should, then we're essentially, taking more money than we should to meet the needs of our community. And that's certainly not what we're doing here, but what we are doing is trying to put together a fee schedule that matches the need and the growth potential of what's going on, so that we're charged correctly, and those that are creating the need are participating and paying for it. So with that said, any further comments? All right, seeing none, if we could get a motion, please.
I'll move that we adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
All right, we got a first and a second. Roll call, please, Ms. O'Connell.
Councilmember Borelli.
Aye.
Councilmember No.
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Thomas.
Aye. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Reyes, for jumping on here at this time and helping answer some of these questions. I appreciate you taking the time this evening to meet with us.
Absolutely. If you have any further questions, I think somebody there has my email or my phone number. Please feel free to contact me.
All right, thank you very much. And Chief Cordero, thank you for kind of spelling this out for us here. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So that was 11.2, and we're still not at 6 o'clock. So we're moving on to item number 12.1. And that's approving a proposal with Entry Point Networks in the amount of $25,000 for a broadband master plan for the city of Placerville. Who has this one? Mr. Morris.
I have that one. Thank you,
All right.
Mayor and Council. And I want to introduce Jeff Christensen, who's here with us tonight also. I quickly asked him to jump on a little bit earlier, so I appreciate him doing that as we moved along with the agenda. Since about April of 2018, we have been looking at this issue, and it was brought to us actually by Mr. Christensen. It's come to the Economic Advisory Committee a couple of times. We've had several meetings. We've taken some actions. As you know, we currently have a survey out, and as part of our new website that we created to inform the citizens of Placerville, and I'll put a plug out for that. That's connectplacerville.com. If anybody wants to go to that and see what we're talking about, that information is there, and the survey is still up for people to complete. You have some of that information in your agenda tonight. The current survey results are a little bit small, and we hope to improve those. We have approximately 175 currently. We hope to improve that greatly and get this message out. What before you tonight, what we've done so far, and I want to thank Jeff, because what has been done so far in doing all this has basically been done at no cost other than some staff time, and most of it has been done by Jeff and his employees to help us move towards this point. But in order to move forward from here, we need to have a more formalized plan and know exactly where we are going. And that's the purpose of this proposal for a feasibility study that we're presenting to you tonight. Jeff and his group, Entry Point, would do this study and help us get to a more concrete decision of how we want to move forward. And I want to stress the reason why this is extremely important to us at this time is you probably notice all of the funding that has become available. And I'll just throw out a couple of numbers. I believe that's about $7 billion that the state has allocated or intends to allocate for broadband. Now, I will note that that has been stated it is primarily for the middle mile, so maybe not directly to what we're looking at, but definitely could benefit us here. In addition, in the ARPA funds that were recently talked about, besides the specific funds coming to the city of Placerville, there's approximately $10 billion for broadband I'm assuming on a competitive basis. I haven't seen the details of those funds yet that were approved as part of that bill. And then in addition to that, in the infrastructure bill that has been discussed on the federal level, the number that I've heard kicked around is $100 billion for broadband nationwide. So you can see the importance of this, and some of the questions that have come out that I've tried to address, and we've discussed, and Jeff has done a good job of explaining this, and we could have him come back if we would like to on another date and do his full presentation that he talks about, and I call it the Ammon model, that shows how we can provide better service, faster service, less expensive service, and really open up a number of other opportunities, what we can do with broadband if we can truly provide this fiber to the home option to our citizens here in Placerville. You might say, how does this affect the Placerville Economic Advisory Committee? I believe there are extreme examples of how it can benefit us in economic development, especially with what you've seen over the last year in terms of people working from home, and companies, even many of them saying they may not go back to in person or people working at their offices, but more and more working from their homes on things. And so this opens up opportunities for us in terms of being able to attract perhaps people not only to live here, but businesses to perhaps make their headquarters here, because they don't have to be in a certain place where their employees can report to. They can be virtually anywhere if they have the correct broadband service that can provide that. So for that reason, we think this is extremely important at this time. It was taken to this proposal was taken to the Placerville Economic Advisory Committee last Friday, actually 2 Fridays ago, a little over a week ago. And they recommended unanimously that the council consider and move this proposal forward. We want to move quickly with it so that we can be hopefully on the ground floor and attracting funding for broadband. The proposal is fairly complete. There was one piece in there that I have discussed with Mr. Christensen about grant writing services that I feel is going to be very important as part of this. He has explained that they do have a grant writer that they work with, and we can work with them and in that manner as we get to that point. Or there's other grant writers that we have used also that we can talk about. But I think that's going to be a very important piece for us to be able to tie into with all the competitive funding that I think is going to become available this next year. Just quickly to talk about this briefly, what we are proposing is similar to where today we have a water system, we have a sewer system, we have a road system, a storm drain system. This would be a new division of those, if you want to call it that, that would be our fiber to the home system, in which we would maintain the fiber, and then providing the internet service would be go out to a number of different internet providers that could provide that service. And again, Jeff can speak to that better than I can, but our responsibility would be simply maintaining the fiber. How we do that is an underground, overhead, what makes the most sense. All of that is part of what this study will look at and give us those options and recommend what will be best for the city of Placerville. And we will get some preliminary costs of what it will take to do that and what it will cost for ongoing service for a person that wants to have that service provided to their home. We've given some examples. However, until we go into this more detail, we don't know for sure what those costs will be, but we have a pretty good idea based on others that have done this. This is somewhat of a unique concept. You've heard me talk before about the Ammon model, and I've sent you information about that in Ammon, Idaho. If you read some of the stuff that I've sent to you, it's clearly stated that they have the best internet service in the country when you talk about speed, service, and cost. And so that's kind of what attracted us to this. And hopefully if we can move this forward, we can be somewhat unique in providing something that others don't, and is also, and then becomes an attraction for attracting economic development to the community. So with that, I will throw it back to the council for any questions you have. I'll be happy to answer those. And that's why I have Jeff here too, so that he can help me answer the tough questions. So.
Thank you very much, Cleve. Jeff, did you have anything to add to that, or are you ready to take some questions?
The only thing I'll add is that we do believe, so the whole country is going to get fiber optics. Right now, most of the country has cable. Cable infrastructure is 30, 40 years old. Cable's a lot faster than the copper telephone lines, and so that's why the country switched over to cable. They have near monopoly in much of the country. Most of the country, but fiber has 25,000 times more capacity than cable, and it's 50 to 100-year infrastructure. So the whole country is going to get fiber. It's really a question of who will own the infrastructure, and our emphasis, we really believe cities and counties should own that infrastructure. That's why we can do it at a lower cost and deliver much better reliability and speed.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it to the council for questions. Yes, Mr. Saragosa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Cleve and Jeff, for bringing this forward. This is, really an exciting project, I think, for the city, as we look towards the future and the ability to attract, whether it be other companies or just having that commodity of broadband throughout the city, I think is awesome. My question, I guess, to Jeff would be, knowing the topography of Placerville and really surrounding communities, but in this case, Placerville, what's realistic, I guess? I mean, I'd love to be able to underground everything, but we know there's, a lot of challenges to that. And obviously, I'd like to take advantage of any undergrounding to maybe do some other utilities at the same time for economies of scale. But I'm just looking at the practicality of that. And is there any difference between, say, something that was running along, next to an AT&T or next to telephone wires or or our electricity wires above ground.
Yeah, so we agree with you. We like to underground wherever possible. Costs come into play when it's significant rock. So that will be part of the analysis we do. We'll work with your public works people and do an analysis on, and a hybrid scenario is common. So in many cities, you'll get underground wherever you can, wherever it's economically feasible. And then it'll be aerial in places where it's not economically. So if it's solid rock or granite or ledge, or even a pervasive amount of rock, then we will look at aerial. Aerial is quite, you've got issues with make ready work on the poles, and depending on who the pole owners are, you've got potential challenges there. You can get it done, and it's not a panacea. It's not necessarily a straightforward or easy process, but one way or the other, and the city is going to get fiber, and it's either going to be underground or aerial. And so, somebody's got to take this on. The city really is the right steward for the infrastructure. So we'll analyze that more closely as part of the analysis.
Thank you. I mean, I assume with the federal by right almost of small cell towers that potentially there could be some policy in there for aerial broadband as well, since there's limited abilities for.
I froze a little. Hold on.
Oh, he may have froze. Oh,
yeah, I did.
Okay, we have you back.
Yeah, we'll be able to do it in the municipal gain space. So we'll be able to, one way or the other, we will be able to work with the telephone poles. There's just a process to go through.
Gotcha. And then my last question is, have you worked with CETF on projects like this in California? And are there any opportunities there with CETF to the California Emerging Technology Fund, which is an offshoot out of the PUC in terms of funding? Obviously, there's a lot of funding, new stuff coming out, but they've had programs for many years as well.
Yeah, so we've got 2 projects in Nevada County that have gotten some money from the Emerging Technology Fund. I think that's where it came through. And those are more community-driven cooperative projects. We did the broadband plan for Reading, and we're doing the broadband plan for Chico right now. So we're familiar with California. And I can get you more information on these 2 projects in Nevada County if you're interested.
That'd be great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Guess I can answer. So I don't need to raise my hand. So originally, I'd like to say, I was there with the first meeting with you in 2000, and I think it was 18.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we had originally talked about a concept that the residents of the city would pay for this, and you did some. This is probably new to a lot of people on the call right now. However, this is not new to the city, in that you've done a few presentations to the city council over the past several years,
right? That
were outstanding in terms of kind of telling us why it's important and how we can get from here to there. But the reality is that we would be it would be funded through an investment by our community members, and that initial concept was that. Have you moved away from that concept? I mean, I guess we really don't know what this 10 billion, 100 billion, 70 billion. That's a lot of billions.
A lot of zeros.
Yes, and is that so? We really don't know where we're at with that, and I guess what our goal is. There's a couple of questions embedded here. Our goal is to have a program that we know what we need, so that when these the ARPA funds come up and the state monies come up and the 100 billion from the feds come up for infrastructure such as for this, we have something to show that we're in process and that we're ready for the money. And that's kind of where we're going with it. That's why the city's spending money right now to be one of those people on the forefront of having the study done that we know what we need, we know where we're going to put it, and we know kind of what our cost is.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's excellent point, Mayor. And to give you an example of that, there was a meeting yesterday at the White House about the use of ARPA funds and the rules around ARPA funds for broadband. And the cities and counties that got invited to that meeting, there were 26 of them. 4 of them were our clients. And the reason they got invited is that they've gone through the process. So they're going out and talking to cities that are in motion. They're actively planning, or they've completed their plans and they're preparing to build, or they're building. And the same thing will be true of the grant funding. If cities are flat-footed, they're not going to be in a position to pull down like the infrastructure grant money, NTIA money, or other money that comes available. You've got to be in motion and be actively solving this problem. So it would go, so your earlier reference, so we haven't gone away. I mean, ultimately, no matter what, the people are going to pay for this infrastructure. Where they're either going to pay AT&T and Comcast for it, they're going to pay some other owner. Either way, the residents are going to pay for this infrastructure. Now, you may get grant money from the state or the federal level, which will certainly lower the overall cost of the project. But the reality is the residents already do pay it. We're trying to get people to look at this as utility infrastructure. It's essential. Yeah, everybody, whether they adopt it initially or not, everybody in time will be connected to this network if it moves forward in Placerville.
All right. And
Mayor,
then go ahead, Cleve.
I just want, and agreeing with, just quickly, I believe the numbers we had thrown out, Jeff, for a home were somewhere between, I'll say 3,500 and 5,000 per home if they were paying the full cost. But that would be spread out over 20 years under that scenario we looked at. And so it really makes it feasible to be done. What this would do would lower that cost, which means it'll be a lot less if we can put some of the base infrastructure, the trunk lines, I'll call them, up through the city. Then that reduces the cost to those homeowners to come forward. It really makes it even more feasible than the example that we showed early on, and how this was feasible for us to do with the customer paying the full amount. So
that's right.
And so just one second there. This middle mile that you're talking about, it's not, so the infrastructure, when you talk about middle mile, it's not what's going to happen inside the city. When you talk about middle mile funding, that's what happens from the city limits basically to the source of the internet that we're drawing from. And that's going to, so it's creating the pipeline from wherever internet is. And actually, I don't know where it's created. It's kind of like it's a magic thing out there in the world. But wherever it's created, and however it gets to the city limits, is that middle mile that they're talking about building out, so that cities can then have access to that infrastructure. Did I say that correctly?
Yep. Okay. In your case, there's 2 data centers in Sacramento that are primary exchange points for the internet. So we call that the connection to the big eye. Okay. And so your middle mile, Cleve had us look into that, and we've already demonstrated we can get a connection from City Hall basically back to the data centers.
All right. Councilmember Taylor, Vice Mayor Taylor.
Thank you. So just to clarify for all the folks at home listening, we would own the fiber optic infrastructure, but the internet would still be provided by this internet providers.
Correct.
For the ability to provide services to our residents.
We look at it in 3 buckets. We look at the capital cost of the infrastructure is one bucket. The cost to maintain and operate the network, which can be done by the city, which we recommend, or it can be done by a third party, which is very doable. And then the third bucket is the services that will run across the network. And the critical thing there, the reason Ammon has the lowest costs in the country is that they did 2 things. They created competition, real competition, and made it so all of those service providers are in the cloud. And we made it so that subscribers can switch service providers on demand. So it really takes less than a minute to switch your ISP. The other thing we did is we partitioned the cost for the ISP over into its own bucket so that people can make economic choices about those ISPs. And those two combined are the thing that drove the cost. The people in Ammon paid $9.99 for their ISP. And that's symmetrical gig, 1,000 up, 1,000 down.
That's crazy. And I pay $700 for half of that.
Yeah. And yeah, it's probably asymmetrical too. You're probably not getting
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Councilmember Borelli.
Yes, thank you. Jeff, I'm going to say maybe it's been 10 years ago, there was a real groundswell here in El Dorado County for trying to get broadband. And I became aware of it when I belonged to a group, it was called SEDCOR, and it was over in Auburn area, and they were really pushing it for Highway 80. I don't know how much they've gained in their attempts at getting it, but there was a presentation here. It was down at the Board of Supervisors, and they had a speaker from a company out of Nevada, and he really challenged the idea that we had too much rock, I'll put it that way, because he said they did it and the proof is in the pudding. And I just wonder if you're aware of that company and their success. He really, was quite happy with what they had done. And I for some reason, I've not forgot that, because every time we talk about it, we're always talking about, the rock challenge, the topography here. And I just wondered if you were aware of that. And unfortunately, I don't know the name of the company.
Yeah, I don't know. Something that Entry Point just completed was the guy who built the Ammon network. He's been there for 17 years and planned the network, built it, and has been operating it since 2016. We had told him 3 years ago if he ever left Ammon that he'd have a home at Entry Point, and he just started his second full week at Entry Point last week. And his job is because he's built this network that is really recognized both for price, speed, reliability. His job is to oversee construction efforts and consult on those efforts. So he's very dialed in on what's possible. We have a strong bias towards underground. I mean, with your fire risks, it's particularly important, I think, for Placerville. So we will certainly dig into that. And if it is possible, we will be biased in that direction.
Thank you very much. Yes, Councilmember No.
I have a couple questions. So when you say 1,000 up, 1,000 down, is that no matter how many people are on the network, or does it slow down as you get more people on the network?
It's a great question. The reason people say up to, and the reason you get that kind of congestion on the network, is 99% of the country is on a shared network. And so what that means is 32 neighbors are sharing a connection, or sometimes 64. And so exactly what you described will happen is that what your neighbors are doing will affect what you're doing. Part of the Ammon model is that it's not a shared network. Everybody has an isolated fiber strand back to the central office. So they have a direct connection into the network switch. And it's not a passive optical system. It's an active Ethernet system where everybody's got their own connection. So what your neighbors do, that will have no impact on what you do.
Great. Another question I have about the study in general. It talks about the 30,000 view, but are we going to get into the details of, I mean, obviously everybody who wants this is going to have to trench it into their yard, into their utilities. Is this going to cover those costs? At least let us know what those costs will be.
Yeah, so we will give you, our model we feel is within plus or minus 10% on what the actual costs will be. And so we will have a detailed financial pro forma and a cash flow analysis included. And I think you'll be pleased with the level of depth of the financial analysis. We don't want to incur, engineering for a project like this, let's say it's $100,000. There are steps that should be taken before you incur that kind of design or engineering costs. So and even an RFP for construction. There are a number of decisions that would have to be made. And we want to begin the process of engaging the community to make sure that the demand is in the community. We believe it is, but we want to go out and engage the community and make sure the support is there before we start incurring bigger obligations on behalf of the city.
So what I'm talking about would be a next level. You're not going to cover it in this study.
Yeah, what would come out of this, so we believe we'll be accurate within 10%. That could be plus or minus. And then, so we believe you can do this for $60 per home. Ammon's actually under 50. They're $49 for the cost of their capital costs for infrastructure, combined with the maintenance and operation fees, combined with the ISP costs. So they're $49 for a symmetrical gig. There's been some inflation. There's a lot of pressure on the system now just because of the money the federal government's putting in. We believe you can do it for under 60. And even with your rock, even with your terrain, and we'll hone in on that in our study. The way you solidify that number, there's really two important variables. What's your take rate, which means what percentage of the community signs up. The higher the take rate, that does have a material impact on what it will cost. So we couldn't really project it today anyway, because we don't know how many people are going to sign up. And then the other is you want to get an RFP for engineering and construction and nail those costs down to give you a rock solid number.
I was also wondering if there was any value in maybe doing a two-tiered part of the study in where we would make sure we brought fiber to all of our business districts, and then, looked at a next step as bringing it to the residential, or is it all or nothing right away?
No, the thing that becomes important is, can the network sustain itself without being dependent on the city? And so what that means, it really has more to do with the operational costs. And do we have enough participation for the network to sustain itself operationally, as opposed to the capital costs? The more people that participate, it will lower the capital costs. But the key variable for sustainability is, do we have enough to support an ongoing operation? And all projects have phases. So you guys probably have a 12-month construction season. That's very beneficial. But it's still, I think we would want to look at what is the right mix for phases. Is it a geographical start in the downtown area, or is it some other driver? But all projects will have phases to them. They won't all happen just simultaneously.
I guess what I'm asking is if, doing the whole city is too large for us to go, could we look at, just doing our 3 business districts and bringing it in that way? And I guess what I hear you're saying is depends if it's cost effective or not, in terms of how many people would participate.
Yeah. So, we haven't really gotten into this technology and where it's going. What will happen over the next, I'm going to say 10 years, is there's going to be a shift in the way these networks are managed. I'd say to cities, can you program the city? And what we mean by that is you're going to have the ability to sit in the city offices and control nodes. It could be public safety nodes, it could be utility infrastructure, but we're moving to software control of everything. And the reason the citywide view is important is that is coming. And you want to be in a position where you've got the right infrastructure in place so that you can program the city. And that's, you certainly could focus on the business districts and significantly improve both what they're paying and what they're getting. But we do think it is important, as you look at the strategy for this and as you look down the road and what you need to have in place from an infrastructure point of view, that you are positioned to solve this problem across the whole city.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I don't see any more questions right now, so we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. Ms. O'Connell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public comment is open for item 12.1. This is the proposal from Entry Point Networks for a broadband master plan for the city. Sue Rodman, go ahead.
Good evening. This is very interesting. Right now I have AT&T fiber optic and I pay $40 a month. So if the city were to do this and not charge me any more than AT&T does, that would be great. I would be happy to have a little better service than I get from AT&T, especially the fact that mine is not even, it's asymmetric. So I'm wondering if the city takes it over, would you use the same optic fiber cable that I already have, or would you be putting in new cable or new fiber? And I'm close enough to the city center. I'm only a couple blocks from the city pool, so I'm fairly in the traffic area of the city instead of way out. So what would be, when you do the city, would you be trying to get kind of the core area of the city and then move out to the further outlying areas? So that's kind of my question. It sounds like the wave of the future. And I do like the idea of we get in line first. We'll probably still be there so we can get funding, because one of the things that our Measure H, Measure L committee has taught us is if we have matching funds to contribute, we can get a lot more done a lot quicker than communities that do not have any matching funds. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Sue.
So there's a couple of questions there. One is a question about cost. So part of the study will look three different ways at what people are paying across the city. And we'll do that through the survey that Cleve mentioned. We'll do that by gathering invoices. So actual invoices we'll redact people's names and addresses, but collect invoices so we can see what the actual bills are. And then we will gather information from your providers themselves on their websites and other ways. So we'll get a pretty good assessment of what people are paying and what they're getting for what they're paying in terms of speed. So none of the incumbents are looking to sell their infrastructure. So we wouldn't be able to use their infrastructure. What's part of what's broken in this system is the AT&T builds their own road and Comcast builds their own road. We're looking at building one robust road and then opening that up to any service provider that wanted to deliver across that. And then as far as your question in terms of order of operations and how the construction would work, that would be made down the road. It'll partially be driven by demand. So what's the level of interest? And start where the highest demand is possibly. But those are decisions the city would make. We would be in an advisory role, but the city would make those decisions.
Thank you, Jeff. We're going to go ahead and if there's we have one more public comment. If there's additional ones, we'll go ahead and take all of those and then we'll bring it back and answer all the questions at one time, any additional questions.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. Ms. O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Caller 857, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Hey, my question is, what kind of above ground architecture would this involve? Like, we have a really long, narrow city. Would you have to have above ground equipment, say like every half mile, something like that? What would that involve? Is it like a 20-foot by 20-foot yard with a fence and razor wire on top? Or the other question is, when you get to each residence, and if it's an underground feed, but it's infeasible to trench because of the tree roots and everything else into the house, can they pop it up at the street and do an overhead feed to the individual home? Just some thoughts. What kind of above ground infrastructure do you need for this city? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. All right, I don't see any further hands up for public comment, so I'm going to close public comment at this time and bring it back. Jeff, if you had any answers for that.
So the So part of what we'll present is the different models that cities have used around the country. And I think we list 12 commonly in our report. So we won't presume out of the gate that the city will follow the Ammon model. We'll present the other models. The decision would be, do you follow a traditional single ISP? Would the city, we are strong advocates for open access. We believe in open access. We won't compel the city to do that. So part of the process will be to look at the models. The infrastructure we like the best, referring back to the earlier question, is where it's not shared infrastructure, where people have a dedicated connection to the switch. And so the way that works is there is an aggregation point there are multiple aggregation points out in the communities, and those tend to be 16 by 20 huts with having them a whole series of racks of switches. So each subscriber would come into a port on an aggregation switch, and then that traffic is all carried in a single bundle back to the central office. So that's roughly what it looks like. We can provide pictures of that. And then, yes, we can go aerial or underground, depending on what the scenario is.
All right. I have no doubt once we get this the study done, that we're going to have a host of more questions and many more conversations to go. So this is certainly not the last opportunity to ask questions regarding this matter. So is there any further questions for staff or Mr. Christensen? Yes. That's
question. I just have a couple comments. First, I want to thank Mr. Christensen for coming and being able to take our questions. And I just want to say that I think that this is such an exciting project, and so much potential here to set us up for the economy of the future and really provide a good asset and resource to our residents. So I look forward to seeing what the study comes back with. I know that there's a lot of details that would need to be hashed out, but I think that this is just really exciting. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any more comments? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead. If we'll get a motion, please.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
All right.
Second.
All right, thank you, Michael. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye. All right, unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Jeff, for taking time out of the evening to answer a lot of our questions here. I know that there's a lot of these questions that are coming up, and we'll certainly be more of them going forward. So thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so looks like we have passed our time for public comment. So we're going to go back to item, let me find it here on the agenda, item 8, time certain, 6 o'clock, or the first opportunity after that. And here we are with our first opportunity. So public comment for non-agendized items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. State law prohibits the council from acting on items not listed on the agenda except by special action of the city council under specific circumstances. The mayor reserves the right to limit the speaker's time to 3 minutes. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal property. And to be honest, we've dealt with this a little bit lately in the last couple of days with emails, and most people don't know what we're talking, probably what's going to be talked about this evening on public comment, but there's been emails going back and people arguing over certain issues that in my opinion should be resolved in other places than city council, because there are issues that in my mind people should have the opportunity to get together and talk with each other and work them through, as opposed to slinging comments back and forth. We'll just leave it at comments back and forth through emails involving city council. And I find it very time consuming for our staff and as well as for council to read all those and noodle through it and really, we are not the arbiter here of people who may perceive slander, wish to accuse someone of slander, or do that. That's the time you get your attorney and you call them, and you call your attorney and you deal with it through attorneys when it comes to slander. We are not the arbiters of slander here at City Council. This kind of reminds me of a quote from Socrates, and that is that when the debate is lost, slander becomes the tool of the losers. So I'd urge people to stay away from slander, to stay away from profanities, and have an honest discussion about the real issues, and not attack people, but attack the issues and have a common sense discussion about what's important to you. And again, these are about all items not on the agenda. So at this point, Mr. Morris, if we have written communication.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You do have one item of written communication that you have received related to the Wagon train event coming up on June 12th, and nothing more to report on that. Thank you.
All right. And so going on to oral communication, Ms. O'Connell, if you could help us out with that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll open a public comment now. These are items not on the agenda tonight. We'll start with Jane McGinnis. Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
We can, Jane, thank you.
First of all, I would like to apologize to the council. I'm usually very sensitive to time limits. And the last time I was speaking to you, I think I was on for 4.5 minutes, and you were very gracious about it. Thank you. I wanted to let you know, just to follow up on the Upper Broadway Speedway. 2 Saturdays ago, I went on Upper Broadway at 35 miles an hour. This is at 4:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday. And I was the only car that turned onto Upper Broadway from the dollar store. By the time I reached the stop sign at Point View, I had 4 furious, angry people behind me, riding on each other's bumpers and all riding on mine, because I was doing 35 the entire way. I've tried this 2 or 3 times, and if there's any car within a mile, it seems like they end up on my bumper if I'm doing 35. I understand there are people who simply will not obey the speed limit, no matter what you do. This evening at 4 o'clock, I was in a driveway on Upper Broadway, just above the upper room, had the turn signal on to make a right turn to the stop sign. And there were 2 cars quite a way down Broadway, but they were coming very quickly. So I waited, and both cars passed me, came across the front of my car as I sat in the driveway, and they were doing between 45 and 50, both of them. And actually one of them had a little trouble stopping quickly enough for the stop sign at Point View. That's a very short distance. And it's also posted with a 25-mile-an-hour school district sign. So my point here is, I don't believe that there is any way to force people to obey the law on speed other than enforcement or deterrence. I don't think we have any other weapons. Enforcement is not practical. We're a small town with a small police force. We cannot post 1 officer to try to enforce the law on 1 mile of 1 street. I think we need deterrence. And I would ask that you would just look into the cost of placing 3 speed bumps in strategic locations so that cars would have to slow down to about 20 to get safely over them. And I believe this would save lives. So that's all I had to say. And I want to thank you all for the great job that you're doing, and let you know we're all praying for you.
Thank you, Jane.
Caller 179, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Jonathan Gainsborough.
Good evening, Jonathan.
God bless. I'm a little weary in the saddle right now, but I got a good report. I have glaucoma. I went to an eye appointment in Sacramento, and the pressures were all good. So I just thank God for stability and no deterioration in that regard. So that's really a big praise the Lord for me for today. I wanted to bring up what I feel is the number one crisis in the city, and I think thousands of our constituents, your constituents, would feel the same way. My heart is broken. About 6 or 8 weeks ago, the front page headline was that one young lady sleeping on the at the Hill, as it's called, the major homeless encampment on Upper Broadway. One of the others, denizens there, set her tent on fire. She almost burned to death, but she had 2nd and 3rd degree burns and was taken to the hospital. Somebody woke her up, or she got out of the tent before being engulfed in flames. I don't know what you feel about any human being having their tent set on fire while they're sleeping in it, but it was another homeless person that needed to be arrested probably before the tent was set on fire. Then we had another homeless person that remains nameless as far as my connection with the homeless community, but he was found dead next to or in one of our creeks. This was about a week or two later, and then after that, about a week or two, we had the Wells Fargo church being set on fire, the fire department coming because one of the homeless on the out front of the locked door, I don't know, about 8 or 9 o'clock, had set a fire. And whether we will diminutize the fact that it was a candle, the bank would have burned down. The fire was behind the walls. And then we have a native son of Placerville, Ron Amaral, being hit by a speeding 20-year-old, 55 or 60 miles an hour, right across from the major homeless camp in the county. I think it's unconscionable that we have a speedway on Upper Broadway.
Jonathan,
Yeah.
I think your time is up here. If you want to go ahead and finish your sentence, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll do it. So we are too big a county for hate, and we're also too big a county to let 400 homeless not have some kind of year-round navigation center. And I know the city is working hopefully with the county, and we can do better. We need to get something
All right.
going.
That was a long sentence, Jonathan. Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mayor, I see no further hands raised. Oh, hang on, we've got some more that just came through. All right. Sue, go ahead, please.
Hi, Sue Taylor. I'm just responding to the email that was sent in and attached to your agenda. I am the event coordinator for the PDA Hangtown Wagon Train event. This is the 3rd year that PDA has sponsored that I have been able to coordinate. First off, I would have to say that Melinda Verasco's letter is very inflammatory. The only time I have talked to Melinda was when we were interviewed by LA Times last year, when she told me it was her goal to have everything Hangtown removed. I was surprised that the city would put something so inflammatory on their agenda. It is inflammatory towards a group of people that I have never seen them do anything to receive the attacks that have been thrown at them over the year. Melinda has insulted the local Native tribe, and she has thrown insults at me in this letter. Melinda could have called me to alleviate her fears. Instead, she sent in this letter full of misinformation that has inflicted discord, hate, division, and fear. I have received numerous phone calls and emails of people concerned. because of this letter. To dispel her rumors, no one is patrolling the streets during this event for security except our city police force, with whom I'm working with very well, along with other community service, with our community service department. They've been very helpful. Also, I was called by an individual to see if he could put a booth to share the city's 1.5 hour video. I told him I did not feel that was a good mix for our living history event, but if the city wanted to come and represent their video, that was up to them. He asked me if he could do something else that was not vetted. I was not comfortable at this late date since I did not understand who he was representing, and perhaps there would be time to look at something next year. This event is a living history family event with lots of things for kids to do. I've asked all participants and visitors to dress up in Western or Pioneer wear. What bothers me is that when this letter came in, that no one from the city asked or called me to ask, "Hey Sue, what's this about?" Hopefully in the future, the city could let me know if there are issues before putting them on the city agenda. You state that we are not allowed to make personal attacks, yet you put a letter on this agenda that attacks me and 2 other groups of people. I would love the city council support and participation. Hangtown Wagon Train Days is a huge historical event that has gone on for decades and is going to be a lot of fun. We have food, reenactors, lots of activities for kids, a foot parade, and anyone that dresses up can show up for shootouts, pony rides, stick horse race, music from 4 different bands, and hopefully a wagon ride. Most of this is from volunteers. We are working on getting more publicity, and we are excited to celebrate with this event. And we thank you for letting us do this year.
Thanks, Sue.
Caller 525, go ahead.
Hi, this is Leo Bennett Karshan. I'm the individual that Sue spoke to, and obviously I probably disagree with her, but I don't think that's, germane very much now, except for the point that the mayor made, which is people should talk to work it out. And when, I have to wait for you guys to approve the event, which is totally understandable, but that occurred long after the advertising started in April, end of April, and I reached out to the city, but they weren't sure about permitting and coordinating. There was never any contact numbers. And then when the city clarified that Sue was the event coordinator, she was gracious enough to talk to me once, said she would get back to me after viewing the presentation, and subsequently did not return any of my texts. That's all water under the bridge, but I do think in the future, publicity should include a contact number, and it should be an expectation that event coordinators return, within 1 or 2 business days. Obviously, there is a lot of tension in the community. You saw the letters that you received from Melinda. You've received subsequent letters. Those of us that go on social media know that this is all heating up. And to me, it's all very sad because I think if it had been a simple yes, when community members ask, hey, can we participate so that this event can be a celebration of the entire community coming out, that we're not told that we're diversity activists is a negative thing, that we're not told that we're haters because we wanted to take down the news. I consider myself pretty calm, and so I just share back, that's just an old battle. It's politics. We agree to disagree. We just want to celebrate, and we each have different things to offer. And I would have liked to have been able to offer either a hard copy of the city event, or I also mentioned that I could bring up stuff from my relatives that were in Chile and all that's available in terms of what Chilean miners offered to the gold rush. So different options. And I emailed you and said it'd be nice maybe if you just give me a square meter and I can have a soapbox on it and maybe talk about temperance, or there's a lot of good 80-50 issues that we can still dispute about and practice that. But to me, it's somehow you guys giving some guidance. Dennis, you did a great job selling this event, inviting the community. Great beginning with the celebrations. But, you know, when we're seeing online that, hey, everybody come and push back against the diversity activists, I'm feeling like a teacher when I start a lesson, which is I felt you, Dennis, and I check out my class, and there's kids in the back row that are acting very intimidated. And that's how I'm feeling right now.
Thank you, Leo, for your comments.
Thank you. I don't have a timer, so appreciate you correcting me. Bye now.
Bye.
Mandy Rodriguez, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, it's just weird that this letter was posted right under what you read, Mr. Mayor, no personal attacks. And then you post this letter, which is a personal attack. And you're like, get a lawyer. But yet you have this, which, you know, on that subject, this is a violation because you, to your words, you said, who's to judge what is slanderous? I can't remember how many times you've cut me off or other people because you said that it was slanderous. So are you the judge of slander? You and only a judge? Is that what we're doing here? Like this, what you have here is a violation of the First Amendment. So really you should remove that, right? Or you should stand by it. Stand by it. So, you know, when you guys do this proclamation, it didn't say for everybody except white people, right? So Melinda wants to, and Leah want to have a non-white booth. Non-white booth. What if I asked for a non-black booth or a non-Mexican booth? How would that go over? Nobody brought race into this except Melinda. Melinda and Leo. They're bringing the race, they're bringing the hate, they're bringing the division. Okay, I wonder where Melinda would suggest this ends. Should the Proud Boys be not allowed in Fur Town? So what would she suggest we do with them? Shun them and their families from the community, run them out of town, maybe round them up, load them on a train? These people haven't done anything wrong, yet they're like this big boogeyman. I bet you they couldn't even name any of these guys by name or anything that they have done to anybody. This is beyond a noose. And you thought that you would appease them by getting rid of the noose. But this is Marxist, critical racism theory. This is social justice. This is wokeness, and it has no end. This is a religion with no redemption. So you guys are going to really have to make a choice and decide where you're going to stand. Are you going to stand for the rights of everybody or only the rights of a few people who are loud? Most people do not agree with this ideology that destroys our history, our heritage, and is really the antithesis of diversity. So really think long and hard. It was a disgusting letter, and it definitely was racist and slanderous. It should have never been posted.
Caller 857, go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. Getting to the roads, when the city rebuilds a road, and thank you, you know, beautiful brand new road, and I have the same problem. It's now a raceway, absolute drag strip. And I understand the previous caller saying, can you please put speed bumps in there, slow everything down to 20 miles an hour. I have to think about, you know, that's a logical first reaction, but emergency vehicles. I remember mega years ago having a major back injury, being transported in an ambulance, and I could almost tell you what road I was on, even though I couldn't see it due to the bumps transmitting right to my injured spine. So I understand if it's going to be anything, it would be those little little round bumps, you know, in a group of them. But we don't want to slow down our emergency vehicles. I think we just need random enforcement. You know, if you saw somebody pulled over for speeding once a month, you'd probably start to take the foot off the pedal a little more. So I've asked for speed enforcement on my new road, left a message with the police department. No one ever got back to me. But I think once you rebuild these brand new roads, obviously speed goes up. And I think you just need to do some random enforcement to encourage people to pay attention to the posted speed limit. That's all. Thank you. Oh, and amen to Mandy.
Ruth Michelson, go ahead.
Good evening. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I wanted to start out by just saying something about the Wagon Train event that, you know, I've thought a lot about this, and it's not like, if people could use their imaginations for a moment, it's not like Wagon Train is an apple pie that we all have to fight over the pieces of pie. And if you don't get the last piece, you're going to go hungry. That's not Wagon Train is. Wagon Train should be all inclusive. It can expand. We can have all of these various parties be included. And I'm just puzzled by some of the previous comments because I you know, maybe we're reading different letters or something, because when I read the letter that was attached, gosh, I'm not seeing anything particularly slanderous. But yes, it does come out against Proud Boys. And myself being of Jewish descent, they are openly and clearly an anti-Semitic group. They are openly and clearly an anti-Muslim group. And they are openly and clearly a misogynistic group, all of which I find offensive. And so, no, I don't have their bylaws. And yes, I know they're a multiracial group. They're also a vigilante justice group, as they showed on January 6th in our Capitol. And I personally like to support the police and the sheriff for keeping law and order in our city and in our county. I am not interested in individual groups deciding that they can come and enforce the law or take care of us when the quote unquote, and I say quote unquote, bad people come, because I've heard the Proud Boy people say that they're worried when the bad people, the BLM comes, that somehow our city police or county, well, I won't say sheriff, let's just say police, will not support the individuals, will stand down, and they need the Proud Boys to save them from these bad people supposedly who might come. I don't have any of these worries. So the other thing I wanted to say in my final 30 seconds was, look, we had Asian, Black, Hispanic, Native American, and Chilean. Chilean was one of the men who was hung at the hanging tree. So yes, Chilean. This was a mixing pot of people at the time of the gold rush. Let's include all of their stories. And it's not just Melinda or Leo who feel this way, not at all. There are scores and scores of people who share this sentiment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Caller 870, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. I have two issues I'd like to bring before the board. One of them is the wagon train. I read this letter from Miss Melinda and I was very disturbed by it. Number one, if she is going to have, if she's going to quote somebody, the community member, in reference to the diversity booth that was set up, then that person should own it, which he did in just a few minutes ago in previous calls. And I thank him for that. As far as the Proud Boys, Sue Taylor said the Proud Boys were not invited and have never been a part of this. So it's a moot point. I'm shocked that this letter was put out to the public. With these two issues, it should have just been totally disregarded. What I see here is a motivation to create hysteria, which is very unnerving that the city council would even acknowledge it. In reference to the wagon train, and as the previous caller just said, the wagon train and the Gold Rush days is a melting pot of different races, different religions, from people who came from all over the country and the world. How did they get here? They got here by wagon train. And that is what we are focusing on. And that is what we are celebrating. Not the diversity, not their ethnics, not anything else. We're celebrating how people traveled to our city and our state in the 1849 wagon train. They all came out together. Highway 50 wagon train was created 75 years ago based on Highway 50 to celebrate Highway 50 and the businesses on it, not the diversity of other languages, people, religions, or ethnic groups. And that is what we're talking about now. So please, leave wagon train alone. If anybody wants to have celebration of diversity and of their religious backgrounds, Jewish and their ethnic groups, have another celebration at another time. Number two, I would like to talk about the outdoor dining. I hear that the city council is going to eliminate outdoor dining, and this is a very sad thing. The outdoor dining has become a pleasant, wonderful, enjoyable experience for many, many patrons that go downtown. Our city is beautiful. Our structures, our buildings are gorgeous. And to sit outside on a sidewalk and enjoy a beautiful evening having dinner is something that people have become accustomed to. It's a pleasure. And I hope that we can continue to do this in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Caller 010, go ahead.
Hello, caller 010. If you could unmute yourself, please. Looks like you're still muted.
Yeah, is that, oh,
Yep,
I'm
you did it.
unmuted now. Okay.
You are good. Yep.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me turn that off. Okay, I have 3 people here, so we need to take more than 3 minutes because 3 minutes is for one person. I have 3 here. So we're using all the same phone. My computer just ran out of power. So anyway, my name is Lisa Perticchese. I have with me Andrew English, who is Nissan Miwok, and Louis Lawrence Smith III. And Andrew is going to start off here. Go ahead, Andrew.
Dear City Council and Ms. Velasco, my name is Louis Lawrence Smith III. I'm a federally documented California native issued Bureau of Indian Affairs identification papers and roll numbers stating that I am Miwok and can present those papers upon request. My tribe is the historic Wampanoag tribe of Coloma, Placerville, and Shingle Springs, who signed the United States Treaty of Casumas River in 1851. My great-great-great-grandfathers were referred to by name in John Sutter's diaries as he had a business relationship with the Wampanoag tribe to deliver cedar shingles to the settlers and help build a mill in Coloma. The Wampanoag tribe has over 200 years and 5,000 pages of documented history in their territory of El Dorado County, and is an authority in these areas of United States county history. Ms. Velasco and others of the progressive leaning seem to have an issue with the validity of my tribe and our constitutional right under the 14th Amendment to conduct commerce in support of our tribe, people, and activities, including cultural preservation and education. We earned that right of commerce in 1935 when our tribe elders voted in the Indian Recognition Act. Yes, we are bringing a tomahawk throwing mobile enclosure as part of our Nisanon Village display. Ms. Velasco likens our having a tomahawk throw trailer to a taco or piñata as representative of Mexican people. Well, yeah, and pizza and Tuscan architecture represents Italians. Sushi and samurai represents Japanese. And hamburgers and baseball represent Americans. So what? Why is this a problem? This is what makes the United States unique, rich, and diverse, being able to have all these cultures embracing each other within a stone throw.
Okay, I'll read the rest of it so that we can get through this then yes,
we're gonna give you 3 minutes here, so you got 26 seconds left, so. make the
No,
best.
there's 3 people here that is 6 minutes, please.
I'm not gonna,
We
it's
have
my
to
caller.
we have to use one phone because they don't have telephones. So you're denying access to people without telephones by not letting them use my phone.
What I'm
I
doing
need
is,
to speak now.
what I am doing is allowing each caller that calls in for 3 minutes, and I'd like you to use the most of it.
I will, how about this? I'll just come back in and I'll talk then. I get my chance to talk. I am not Andrew. I am not Louie. I am Lisa, and I get to talk separately from them, even though we're using the same device.
Please go ahead.
Kathy Lishman, go ahead.
Well, I didn't think it was my turn. First, I'd like to say, Dennis, that Socrates quote was very wonderful, and thank you for putting that up. I also want to say, in the past, when someone sent in a letter, it did not go on written communication on the council agenda unless they asked for it to be there. And I don't know what the policy is now, but I think that would be a good idea. I also want to say that this is really bad because it's either like you're on this side or you're on that side. People can be opposed to each other on one issue and they can work together on another, but it doesn't seem to be that way now. And it's really sad. And that is not how I operate. And I'm really sad that some people seem to think that that's the way they're supposed to operate. As far as the wagon train event goes, this year does seem to be different because of the timing and the fact that we're just getting off of COVID. But I have a question. I have questions. When did Wagon Train Days go before the city council with a plan for approval? Who is putting on the event and who is on the committee? How does someone apply to participate? Are fees being charged by the city for issues related to the event? And last, I want to say, the Placerville Proud Boys are certainly welcome to change their name to something else. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Bill, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Bill.
So like a few other people have pointed out, I wanted to point out how you have this letter. You started off with a little soliloquy about not wanting to have arguments and slander and confrontation. Mr. Thomas, apparently you make a distinction between slander and libel because the letter was in written form. Apparently that's okay. I don't understand why you would put that on the agenda and invite all this conflict, all this confrontation. I'm befuddled by that. And this is a council that's been making some pretty bad and divisive decisions about the news, about many other things, to the extent where I think most of you, or if not all of you, are up for recall. That isn't surprising. Maybe you guys should sound off some of your ideas against to some reasonable people before you run with them. But the main issue I want to talk about, Public House, one of my favorite places to go. They're trying to reopen. I mean, I heard Kara mention something earlier about a brew house opening up, and I got all excited because I thought the Public House is finally going to open. And it turns out she was talking about something else. For whatever reason, you guys are getting in the way of letting the Public House reopen. And I can only suspect that it's because that restaurant is trying to open up in a building that's owned by Sue Taylor. I see a vendetta against Sue Taylor by this council. That should not be. That you're not doing your job. You're inviting lawsuits. I see you guys post a letter on your agenda attacking Sue Taylor based on hearsay, which is a very bad judgment, opening yourself up for lawsuits there. In the meantime, you guys are putting some kind of a hold on getting this place opened up. It's a small business that's trying to recover from this COVID, from all the hard times that small businesses have been going through. And for whatever reason, somebody there is blocking the reopening of the public house. Is that what the council sees their function as being? They get in there and do personal scores against local businesses? I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why you guys are doing that, but I do understand why most of you are up for recall. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, we're going to go back to caller 010. Go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay, thank you very much.
Lisa, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
If you could go ahead and finish up with your speakers, we'll go ahead and go with that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm just going to continue on with their letter right now. So Andrew left off with the cultures embracing each other within the stone's throw. And yes, we will be selling native crafted items as per the federal law, Indian Arts and Crafts Act of 1990. So we're wondering, what is Ms. Valesco's problem? We are the authentic El Dorado County Gold Rush Treaty Tribe, federally documented with BIA issued identifications, conducting commerce as described in the Indian Arts and Crafts Act as pending members of the World Axe Throwing League, and it is not unusual for Native Americans to throw axes as a competitive game and a social activity to sharpen our skills for hunting and daily life. The city, if the city would post our video, it might help Ms. Valesco with her stress levels there. So where was Ms. Valesco and her heart attack crew when the city was bulldozing our Sacred Village archaeological site, or when Mr. Thomas was insulting the tribe? Ms. Valesco seems to be okay with BLM rioters, arsonists, assaulters, looters, as long as they pretend to be doing it for people of color. I would like to emphasize pretend, because these so-called diversity activists have done nothing for the Wampum tribe. On top of that, they have been pressuring us openly on Facebook for a place at our booth during the event that will not help us collect wood to build our display for Wagon Train Days, even when directly asked. Now, this is very well documented on Facebook. We got screenshots of it, the whole bit. They just keep, Leo in particular has been harassing the tribal representative on Facebook, wanting a space at the booth, denying the tribe's records that they have, trying to repaint the tribe's history in an entirely different manner that he perceives as what it is. He is not a scholar. He is not a lawyer. He is not a tribal representative. He's just making stuff up. So now with regards to the Proud Boys, Ms. Valesco has not supported her accusations of white supremacy. She has not submitted the bylaws and mission statement of the Proud Boys, nor has she been able to submit a personal experience of their assault upon her or even a police report. Ms. Valesco has only submitted hearsay evidence from incomplete, unverified sources and whatever is swirling around her head at night. The City Council should note that the Hangtown Wagon Train Days has been a regular event for more than 50 years, long before Ms. Valesco or Mr. Benet Cushon or Michael Saunders showed up on the scene. These folks have apparently decided to gaslight the town in order to push their agenda, which apparently includes the distortion of local history and openly attacking the Wampum tribe. Ironically, Mr. Saunders play acts in our local park as a Moor. As you know, Moors captured African people and sold them into slavery. So who are these people that think that they can speak on behalf of the local historic tribe for any other generational person in the county? These people have no heritage in El Dorado County, linking them to Gold Rush, and have no basis for their pushiness of their particular agenda. To alleviate Ms. Valesco's fears, perhaps rather than spending 24 hours suffering from a racing heart when writing an inflammatory letter to the city and attempting to make whatever is swirling around her head a community issue, which she has done, maybe Ms. Valesco should have contacted Sue Taylor for the facts. So the other thing that I personally want to address is, they're worried about the Proud Boys being at the event. The Proud Boys have done nothing. Every U.S. citizen has the right of a citizen's arrest. If somebody is at an event causing trouble, they can do a citizen's arrest on them, regardless of whether they're a Proud Boy or a tribal member or anybody else there. And so these people have already been threatening that they want to set up their soapboxes next to the tribe booth so that they could go pontificate whatever blah, blah, blah they want to do. And we don't want them there. They need
Let's
these
go ahead
these
and let's go ahead and wrap it up here. If you would,
Okay,
Lisa.
well,
Thank you.
anyway, that's it. That's what I wanted to explain what's going on. This is an event that's been going on for years and
Yep.
had absolutely no problems at all until these people showed up.
All
Look
right.
at it
Thank
that
you.
way. Thank you.
Brian, go ahead.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can, Brian.
Awesome. Hey, I wanted to kind of follow up on what Mike was talking about with the roads, and people are just speeding up and down like crazy. I did write a letter to Miss Neebs about, trying to follow some type of layout to garner extra safety on our roads. I live on a cul-de-sac, and yet and it's a really short road, and still people rip up it at 40, 45 miles an hour. And there are 12 kids on our street, all under the age of 6, and they like to play in the street. They ride their bikes down the hill, as families have done on this street probably for 50 years. And it's, I asked if it was possible to just put in either like those little speed bumps that would be great to depress the speed coming up the hill, or perhaps just like a speed limit sign of 15 miles an hour. There is a commercial building on the street. So since there is a commercial building there, I believe there is an ordinance that was written in 1920 that's still active that requires there to be a speed limit sign at the bottom of the hill on Grandview Street, right off of Clay Street, that requires 15 miles per hour while going up towards that commercial spot. And so I wrote that letter. I hope that gets some further traction, just to make it a safe environment for our kids to, run around. We all pay a little bit higher premiums of getting that good cul-de-sac spot. And I mean, I just want people to slow down so that kids have enough time to get out of the way of a moving vehicle. So that second, I want to point out real quick that the quote from Socrates, that's not a quote from Socrates at all. It surfaced around 2008, and it's just kind of like it's just a weird phrase. And then by adding the Socrates to it, it gives it that level of emphasis that, a great Greek philosopher said something along those terms. There's nothing in the philosophy that ever comes close to that. It's all about rhetoric and understanding how to work with others. The ancient Greeks made a lot of allusions to this as well. Socrates never wrote anything down. It's all found in Plato's Republic that was recorded by Plato. I just wanted to point that out. My background's in political philosophy. So if you have any questions about ifs, ands, or buts, I'd love to help out and correct those misquotes. So I just wanted to point that out. It's a cool quote, but Socrates never said it. Thanks.
Don Wolfson, go ahead.
Hi, I just have a couple of short comments. The first one is regarding the traffic. Just for the information of the people who talked about it, I reached out actually to the county about the same issue and was told that we are a no speed bump county due to liability issues. So probably you're going to have to pursue another solution there, unfortunately, just FYI. Secondly, I'm very happy to hear that the Proud Boys, who are a hate group, are not going to be policing a public event. That is very scary, and groups like that should not be normalized ever. If they're not aligned with the national hate group, then they should, like someone else said, change their name. As far as the wagon train and the native events, the tomahawk throw and all that, I fully support them. Good for them. I'm glad they're there. And as far as the history, the gold rush was much more diverse, I think, than Placerville is now. Why can't there be a booth maybe next year, maybe this year, it's too soon. Why can't there be a booth talking about the history of all the various different groups? Because we had Asians, Black people, Native Americans, you know, Europeans who weren't Anglo-Saxon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What is the harm in adding a booth that talks about their history? And finally, to the people who have been going around making fun of Mr. Saunders' costume, it is not a Moorish costume, it's Celtic. If you don't know what you're talking about, maybe you should go and talk to the person. That's all. Thank you.
Michelle, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Sitting listening to this conversation, there's two things that are resonating with me. The first was a comment made by my mom who was listening to this 200 miles away. And she said to me, Michelle, you live in a different world. And listening to this conversation, I'm realizing I really do. The second is diversity. And I've heard diversity kind of thrown around in some of these conversations as if it's a bad word. The earth is diverse, nature is diverse, the flowers are diverse, humanity is diverse. Diversity, there's nothing wrong with it. It's how we survive, it's how we thrive. And so hearing it spoke about as a negative word is just sitting with me in a really real way right now. And I think especially today, which is the year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, it really saddens me that we're even having to have this conversation. Oh, one more thing, sorry, public house. I'm not sure if I know the exact business that the gentleman was speaking about that opened up. I believe I do. The city council is not holding anybody back. They don't have an agenda against the public house. From my understanding, multiple businesses on Main Street where their liquor licenses are pending because somebody went on vacation and this establishment decided to open and is not serving liquor. So it has nothing to do with the city with a vendetta against any business. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, hey, how you guys doing? Good evening. I was calling because got this big issue about the Hangtown Proud Boys, and me being one of them. A lot of people speak for us. They like to call us hate groups. There were a few people who called in and said, you know, we haven't done anything in our community other than help. I've got Black African Americans in my group. A couple of my members are married to Black women. There's no hate in our group, but what we've noticed is that there's a lot of the people who are putting the hate out in the community are actually the people who are calling us hate group. And these are the people that actually took my address, took pictures of my home, where my family, my children live, and put it out for the public to see nationwide, to the point where the FBI had to show up to my house. But, you know, other than that, I don't see any problem with us being in town, just like anybody else, unless we were out there causing disturbances. You know, we don't do anything. We're all members of the community. We love our community. We try to do whatever we can to help out, regardless of color, creed, religion. And I don't see what the big threat is against that. If you look at our bylaws, there's nothing that puts us along with racism. It's just been a big thing. No matter what we do here in town, no matter, you know, if we gave $5,000 worth of our own money to Toys for Tots, you know, it's a bad thing. People just want to continue to put us out there as a bad thing when they don't really know much about us. And if they do know us, it's just like some other people have said, you know, it's pick a side type of thing. I love all my neighbors. I love my community. I don't care if you're Black Lives Matter. I don't care what. I'm going to treat you just as kind and respectful as I would anybody, as long as you're doing it to me too. And so I just want to get out there and let everyone know that if there was anybody who was a racist in my group, they would be thrown out, regardless of, you know, if you guys believe it or not. But none of us are racist. Most people who've got the chance to get to know me or any of my guys, they see exactly who we are. let's open up the public house. Let's quit messing with that place. It's a great restaurant, and I love this town, and I just want to see us be able to get along. I'm tired of all the fighting, and I mean, I'm tired of seeing my chapter's name come up every week over stuff. I mean, I can understand it if we were out there actually causing harm to the city or towns, but we're not. We're just normal guys out there doing a thing. I don't care what people are seeing and reading nationally. Come meet us. That's all you got to do. I mean, that's all you got to do. Meet us, and you can see what type of people we are. Anyways, thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Julie Robinson, go ahead. Julie, are you there?
She's muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Sorry, I was talking to my daughter. Hello, I'm Julie Robinson, and I want to demystify who I and my fellow advocates are. For some reason, we're seen as a threat, danger, bad, whereas we're your community. I live 1 street away from Main Street. I work in town. I grew up in a small pioneer town in Zimbabwe, and I love living in the small forested city, but we're villainized frequently, whereas all we're trying to do is to ask for our Black and brown friends to be made more welcome here. In a social media post yesterday, I quote, Melinda was accused of targeting, harassing, degrading, libel, lying, hating, racism, destructive, narcissist, low intelligence, ridiculous, doesn't live here, never experienced a wagon train, and none of that is true. Instead, Leo, on all of our behalf, asked 2 months ago for a booth where we could share the greater history that we had recently discovered, because isn't that what the event is about, history? Instead, we were ignored, and then the rumors about Proud Boys coming in for security. How would the community respond if BLM were rumored to be policing Main Street for a local event? Is our presence in our town suddenly a threat? How are we a threat? The only thing we bring is truth, not guns, not knives, not looting, not rioting. How is Melinda a threat for asking the city who sponsored this event to demand diversity? Instead, the intimidation is to silence us. We were excluded. Why such a backlash for asking to be included in a community event? Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
That was perfect. Thank you.
Gail Hesselgesser, go ahead.
Hi. Some people have already made some points that I'd like to make, but I did some math and discovered that the wagon train must have started in 1949. And I assume that was the centennial of 1849. And I've been here for 40 years. I'm almost 80. And I know the cowboy movies from the 1950s and the 1960s. We liked Hopalong Cassidy and Bonanza and Gary Cooper. Those cowboy movies out of Hollywood were, I mean, I watched every single one, all the serials. And I understand the allure of the way the West was characterized by Hollywood in those times. And it seems to me that the wagon train is seen as bringing to life that sort of Hollywood view of what the Old West was. And I invite us, and the Lewis from the Wapumbness group mentioned a few facts about how his family had worked making shingles or something back 100 years ago or so. Sorry, I don't remember the details, but I thought that's really interesting. You know, I would love to know those kinds of details about what actually was going on here back in those times. So I would invite us to graduate from the Hollywood version of what the Old West was and open our minds and invite these details about what life was really like. They probably used Chinese medicine to fix their arthritis. Who knows? There are all kinds of lovely details. And I know this city council has been in support of our investigating history. I say there's nothing to be afraid about finding the true history of what was going on. It's interesting, it's life, it's reality, it's rich. It's not just a stereotype or Hollywood's idea of what the Old West was like. So I appreciated Kathy Lishman's questions about the procedures and how does one manage to get involved and share. And I just invite us all. Yes, the Wagon Train was a wonderful event, but let's open our minds and be curious about what really happened. And it's time for us to grow up.
Thank you, Gail.
Call in user 2, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, this is Caitlin from the Enchanted Forest. And I know the city has already met about the temporary outdoor dining and that has been already made a decision on. I did put a request out to the community because I know how much people really love the outdoor dining. And I was thinking that we could come up with an alternative, like more of a permitted outdoor. And I had, let me get my little list of suggestions. Okay, so one is to only be in front of your own business, not in front of anyone else's. Pay the city revenue for any lost money from parking tickets, and installing safety barriers, and then open the permits to all the restaurants. The amount of people that just are in love with the outdoor dining is huge. I just put out a little questionnaire, like how people feel about it. And in 2 days, I got hundreds of really passionate responses from people. And so it's just something I would like to have discussed, voted on, considered, and again, to build those up and then take them down. And if COVID comes, some mutated form comes roaring back, it's not an easy up and down thing. And it's just, I do advertising to a 3-hour radius around Placerville. And because people really want to come see the cabanas and experience it. And then I also say, and go to all the little shops, make Placerville your little adventure getaway. And the other shopkeepers tell me that all these people with the flower crowns that we give away come into their stores and say, hey, we've come from a long distance. We came here to dine at the cabanas, the outdoor dining, and then they go and they shop. And those little flower crowns that we give out are all over town. They're all over in the shops. They're shopping. So people go out and dine and then they shop. So I know it's brought a tremendous amount of joy to the locals and out-of-towners, and also revenue to the town. So I would just like to have something more, permitted, permanent, not permanent, doesn't even have to be permanent, and also to help us restaurants recover from everything that we've been through. Thank you for the consideration, and that is all.
Thank you.
Sarah Saunders, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Sarah Saunders. I would like to say hello to the lady that just spoke from the Enchanted Forest, because the priorly referenced medieval club that my husband belongs to, we've actually dined there. It's very, very ambient. So I've lived in this county for over 15 years. I'm a member of the Natural Food Co-op, the Boger Winery Club. I belong to 2 organizations that rent space in Placerville and in the county, and we've held events all over Northern California, including the Shakespeare Club, Placerville Town Hall, Lotus Park, and the Gold Country Grange and Finnan Lake. Never been in Lions Park. Regarding the wagon train days, I was really appreciative of the remarks that Kathy made about the process here, because I think that ultimately that is the problem. In holding these events, it's very important to be transparent, for people to know the rules, for people to know the limitations, for people to know what they can and can't bring, what they can and can't do. And the problem with this has been that some members of the community have felt that they have been discouraged from participating because of lack of communication, rumors, innuendo, you know, all of that. There was no contact person that would contact them back. And there were concerns that we heard about agendas of some groups, but there didn't seem to be any concerns about agendas of other groups. And, you know, this is being held up as a community-friendly event. And I just want to say, what community? What do you consider community? Who is a member of that community? I believe that the leaders in the county and in Placerville do want to encourage community, do want to encourage diversity, and that they do want to look forward and look ahead. I think that that's the problem here, is that there's a feeling that some people were being kind of stonewalled on this. And I'd also like to thank Don for pointing out that my husband does not role play a Moor. He role plays a Celt. We're members of a Celtic tribe, and we've been members in that tribe for 20 years and never been in Lions Park. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Oh, great.
Melinda Velasco, go ahead.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and city manager. First, I want to thank you for adding my letter to your agenda. Ironically, I didn't intend to send it to Ms. O'Connell, the clerk of the board, but I did. So here we are tonight. I wrote the letter because a community member asked Sue for a booth at the Wagon Train Days event to try to showcase the history and contributions of Mexican, Chinese, Chilean, French, African-American, and Japanese community members during the time of the wagon train. Sue said that she had enough diversity at the event already, so she said no. She also said the Proud Boys would be on the street. Since the city was still in the process of giving her a permit, I figured the city should know about both issues. It was upsetting to me, and it's upsetting to other community members. Getting held accountable by the public is part of what you sign up for when you organize on a public street. It's not defamation. On the other hand, yesterday, because of my letter, I saw social media posts that identified my place of work, posted pictures of me online, discussed getting me fired. So I ask community, where are we now? Is this what we are about? Is this the new normal in Placerville, trying to destroy people's livelihood when we don't like their letter to city council? I thought I lived in America. I thought I had the right to talk about what I like and don't like to my city council. I think that most of us agree that we can do better. The community I would like to work toward would be one where a community member can reach out 6 weeks in advance of a community event to request a booth based on a city endorsed historical presentation, and the person can get a booth. Local poets can read their historically based poetry, and even if the city accidentally gives them a contact email for the wrong PDA member, the event organizer would try to work with the poets so that they could participate anyway. Kindness and inclusivity goes a long way toward healing community. And I debated on this last one, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it in as a final note. Playing both sides can work for a while, but eventually people catch on. Arranging to use a violent neo-fascist group for security at an event on a public street, then denying it when people challenge you is playing both sides. It's bound to catch up to you. And the more a person plays both sides, the less people will trust and respect that person. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda.
Kirk Smith, go ahead.
Did you call my name?
We did, Kirk.
Oh, I've gone to the Wagon Train celebration for a long time. And as far as I know, it's always been sponsored by the Highway 50 Association. Um, the last time there was one held just before COVID was different because it was very experiential learning. And I think I enjoyed that most of all of them for just that learning opportunity. Um, I think you all saw that LA Times article on the news controversy and suggested that it was sharply divided between pro-Trump and anti-Trump forces. And the rhetoric that I hear on both sides is very troublesome and hyperinflated, but the city didn't help anything by posting the letter. I don't know that you've done that before, so it really didn't help. In any event, you had almost a year ago a great event was an exhibit that local group progressives had, and I thought it was great. You didn't have any rules there or require them to have rules about who participated and what the conditions were or anything like that. If the Highway 50 Association wants to make a big public relations screw up by bringing in the local chapter of the Proud Boys, well, we'll see what happens. It seems kind of clueless, but let's find out. I just think it's really sad that the rhetoric has been so super inflated, but it didn't help. In any event, you had one author that was cited often over and over for many months, giving an explanation for the nickname that came from the town. But that's not the one that was provided by an historian in the 1890s who said that it was because after that trial it was deemed to be the hub of the gold rush. And that's what this was, the center of the mother lode. And that's what the Highway 50 Association has been doing. So let's see what happens. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. All right. Seeing no more hands up for public comment, I am going to close public comment at this time. And we'll move on to item 12.2 on the agenda. And that is appoint council subcommittee of 2 members plus the city manager and city attorney to interview and make recommendations of new city attorney firm. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, earlier this year, our current city attorney, Mr. Driscoll, announced that he would be retiring. I think this is at least the second time he's done that, but we hoped we could talk him out of it again, but he's going to do it this time. So anyway, we prepared, between the city attorney and I, prepared a request for proposals. That request for proposals was sent out on March 23rd, approximately. The council approved it on that date. They were due on May 4th. We did receive 7 proposals for that. Unfortunately, we received 9. 2 of those 9 were late, and therefore we were not considered. We sent those back. Currently, we have 7 that are responsive proposals that we are considering. The RFP states that the top 2 firms will be selected to be interviewed. In review, currently the city attorney and I are reviewing those proposals. We believe that we will narrow that probably down to 3 proposals. we don't think we can get it to 2. They're very qualified, and we think that the council should have that opportunity. We have a couple of options, and since this report went out, I want to clarify some information regarding what is the potential of how you can do these interviews. First off, as presented in my report, one consideration would be to appoint 2 council members to participate in the interviews with myself and Mr. Driscoll to recommend an attorney firm to fill that position. The other option that we were researching as we were writing this report was whether or not the entire council could do that interview, and could they do that in closed session, which is more appropriate, similar to personnel interviews that we may do. It was confirmed by Mr. Driscoll, and he can talk to that further if you'd like, and we did research that quite a bit, that yes, you can do that, and the entire council be part of that interview process. I do believe it would be helpful to have, especially Mr. Driscoll, and if you would like me also to be part of those interviews, to review city attorneys and provide input there. There's a couple of options of how you could do this. You could have, if that would mean 7 of us. 7 from my perspective can be a little bit potentially cumbersome in 7 people asking questions and interviewing. However, I do think there's another option would be to have maybe 1, 2, or 3 people, something like that, asking the questions, but the entire council would be there available to hear and score and determine the answers and help determine who is the most qualified and the best person for the position. So everyone would have that opportunity. So that's another option that you could consider. So basically the 2 options are basically at this point, we don't need to go through all the details, but are to appoint a subcommittee of 2 of you to participate with the city attorney and the city manager to do the interviews. The second option would be for the entire city council to be part of that interview process, and then the details of how that is done and the question answer asking and selecting questions and reviewing and et cetera could be decided basically at a later date. So with that, like I say, the city attorney and I are both here to answer any questions. If you have any, we'll be happy to answer those.
Are there any clarifying questions at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment and bring it back for any further discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public comment is now open for item 12.2. This is regarding the City Council Subcommittee to make a recommendation for a new city attorney firm. Kathy Lishman, go ahead, please.
You would expect that I would be trying to give my input. I just wondered if John is retiring the end of May and someone is not on board yet, will he stay until the person is replaced? Second, I think if you have a committee of 9, 5, 6, 7, maybe it's 7, and it's intimidating, that might be good. I think definitely it needs to be a way that the entire council can review the applications. And even if a committee of smaller make final recommendations of 3, I don't see any problem with 5, 6, 7 of you interviewing a candidate and a few asking the questions. I think it would be good for everybody and for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Caller 857, go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. Just looking for a point of clarification, because when the city clerk opened it up for public comment, she said discussion to review a law firm. And so I'm just wondering, are you looking for an individual, or are you looking for a firm that can send you multiple individuals throughout the year as needed? So what is it you're looking for, an individual or a group of people? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, seeing no more hands up, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back for further discussion. And I think the answer to that last question was we're looking for the best possible candidate, whether it's a firm or a person, to represent the city on all matters. So,
yeah, Mayor, if I could add to that, just so you know, all of those who have submitted applications are attorney firms. However, as part of the RFP, they are required to submit the person who would be designated as the city attorney. And so that would be one specific name from that firm that would be our city attorney and would be generally there. Most of them list an assistant in the case that that person cannot be there for some reason, that could respond and attend meetings, et cetera, if need be. But there is one designated person from the firm that would be the city attorney.
Yes, Mr. Driscoll.
That's correct. Most of the firms have designated both the city attorney and an assistant city attorney. In fact, some have actually designated multiple assistants depending on the area of specialty that might be involved. The other thing I wanted to correct, Kathy said I'm going to retire end of May. Unfortunately, or fortunately as the case may be, I'm not going to be retiring until August, probably right after that first council meeting in August. Want to get through the selection process, and then there'll be a transition phase that I think I need to be involved in. And then that timing should work out that I'll be retiring probably after the first meeting in August.
Thank you. I am certainly in favor of all of the council members being there. And I think we can work out the process at a later date, but my goal would be to have a broad view of and questions for this. And we could certainly discuss those questions in advance so that we are, if we're going to hone it down, we can approach it from that perspective. And it's going to be tough to replace Mr. Driscoll, and and he's been very kind to the city in terms of his charges. So that's also something that we have factored into our new budget for the new year. So that's when we talk about law firms, and kind of makes me wince a little bit, because I know I've looked at bills from law firms and they're not cheap. So so that's certainly going to be a part of the conversation as well. Any further discussion? Yes, Vice Mayor Taylor.
Well, first, I just want to say that, John, you're going to be missed. It makes me sad that we are looking at taking the next steps. I'm looking beyond on the city. But, I do like the suggestion to have the whole council be part of scoring the interviews. I think that this is such an important position. It would be good to have everybody taking part in that. And I do think that there might be some ways to streamline interviewing so that it goes smoothly, and maybe having just a couple people designated to ask the questions, but having everyone involved in scoring and being able to see all the applicants, I am in favor of.
Thank you. Michael.
Ditto. I mean, both what the mayor and vice mayor said, I think it's a good idea for the whole council, because as the vice mayor just said as well, the level of, the interaction that we all have with the city attorney. I think it's important for everyone to have the ability to weigh in on that. So I think that's the direction I'd like to see us go to.
Thank you. Say yes, Patty.
That was my thought too. I definitely think we all need to be included. This is a really, really important process that we're going through. And much as we hate to lose John, I think he would tend to agree that because the city attorney interacts with all of us. And, I just think it's really important that we're all included in the interview.
All right. Let's go ahead. If we're all ready, let's somebody want to take a shot at a motion here.
I'll make a motion to adopt option 2, where all 5 council members will be included with the interview, along with the city manager and the city attorney.
I'll second it.
All right, Patty, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye. All right. Thank you, Mr. Driscoll, for your input on that. Although I voted against this, I look forward to seeing what our future holds with a new attorney. All right, we're going to move on now to item. Oh wait, are we? How much we have left? Let's take a 5-minute break, if you will, and let's make it 7. That puts us back at 7. Yeah, puts us back at 7:55. Perfect. We'll see you then. All right, I see everybody's in the room. We'll go ahead and bring this meeting back to order. And we just finished up with item 12.3. We're on to, I'm sorry, 12.2. We're on to 12.3. And this is to ratify contract change order number 2 in the total amount of $16,335 with Doug Camp General Engineering for Mosquito Road project. And there's a few more on there, and I'm going to turn this over to Miss Neves to finish off what I started there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Just wanted to bring this item before you, requesting council's permission to ratify contract change order number 2 in the total amount of $16,335.32 with Doug Camp, as the mayor mentioned, for the Mosquito Road project, and actually issuing along with that are notices of completion for both the Mosquito Road project and the Spring Street project. So this is, kind of the final closure point, and we release retention to the contractor after this, and we begin closing the books on these projects. So engineering is pleased to bring this item before you, having that final conclusion. Both contracts were simultaneously awarded at the August 25th City Council meeting in 2020, and Spring Street construction began on September 28th in 2020. After working through a whole host of utility challenges, Spring Street construction successfully concluded and a new road was opened up to the public before December. Construction on Mosquito Road paving began on December 14th, and with a break in the winter weather, the project was completed in May and a new road was open to the public. The best part of both of these projects is that they were primarily funded through the city's Measure H&L funding sources. The city would not have been able to deliver these projects had it not been for those funding sources carrying the lion's share of the cost. So I also really want to say thank you to our community for trusting us and voting in Measure H&L in place. It allows us to have funding to maintain our infrastructure. This concludes my verbal report. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, any questions or core comments? All right, I wish Mark Acuna was here, because this was a hot button for him for the last 4 or 5 years, ever since Measure H&L went through. He was like, when are we going to get Spring Street? When are we going to get this done? And so he has been, he was dogged about this, and I'm sure he pushed it over the line and helped it move along a little bit. But we have our list of projects, and this one had a lot of delays and a lot of hiccups along the way. I mean, it's surprising how all the different things that happen between a collapsed storm drain pipe to sewer line problems and, well, the whole mess of things. But we made it through, and were we relatively close to in budget?
Spring Street, we had to go back a couple of times, but again, luckily we had that funding source to do that. Utilities always presents an element of surprise, if you will, in the field.
Yeah.
And but on Mosquito Road, on the paving, other than just making the best of an opportunity and adding more paving in, we actually hit pretty well on the Mosquito paving job. So we had actually already addressed all the utilities with the prior project that finished literally just before we started the rest of paving. So I refer to Mosquito as Main Street version 2.0, because it basically redid all the utilities and the traffic. You really don't realize how much traffic comes through there, and the paving effort too. And also I wanted to follow up that since these projects are now paved, we've actually been doing speed surveys to verify what those new paving does to these 2 projects. And that's kind of our practice moving forward, is we've been able to secure, at least on a temporary basis, a speed tracker, and that has helped us kind of watch what these projects, as far as smooth road and paving, do to speeding. So as it stands right now, both Spring Street and Mosquito are reporting in under the posted speed limit of 30 miles an hour.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a theme, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. All right. Any further questions? All right. Yes, Patty.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
I really appreciate the whole thing. And I know you guys really went through a lot, but maybe lessons learned. I don't know. Everything's an education in Placerville.
Seems like every project has a new opportunity to learn something, doesn't it? Yeah. All right, sorry. Let's go ahead and open it up for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public comment is now open for item 12.3. This is regarding the Mosquito Road and Spring Street projects. We'll start with Sue Rodman. Go ahead.
Good evening. This one I think is just amazing. Congratulations to Rebecca for pulling it off, because this was one of those tangled webs to try to unravel, and it was incredibly complicated. And the Measure H, Measure L committee met several times as this thing evolved. And I would say we're very proud of what our city engineers have accomplished here. So thank you again, Rebecca. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Sue.
Caller 857, go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. So yeah, I just want to echo those sentiments. The city really knocked this out of the park. I'm speaking specifically to the mosquito part. I didn't see what the nightmare was on Spring Street, but I understand it was a nightmare. And Deer Camp and his crew, so professional. What they delivered is amazing. And so kudos to the city and to Rebecca for rolling the dice in that little 2-week window, like in February or whatever it was. The weather kind of like broke and the paving came down and it all came together, and that was a gamble, but it paid off. And so kudos to Rebecca on that. The only request I have is maybe like 1,000 more speed limit signs. I don't know what kind of equipment you're using to measure this, but I'm using my ears and my eyes. So I don't know if it's possible to add a couple more speed limit signs through my strip. That would be great. They narrowed the lanes, but it doesn't seem to actually affect driver behavior. The part I love the most is the car clubs are coming back. I used to sit here years ago and watch the Jaguar Club, the Corvette Club, the motorcycle clubs go through, and now they're coming back. So that is another economic benefit, because these guys are out for a weekend stroll. They'll probably go up to the Tahoe, they'll come back to Main Street, get a nice meal, and spend some money. So everything's great. And thank you guys. You did a really great job on my road. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Kathy Lishman, go ahead.
It's just the three of us, old standbys, but I wanted to thank the council, the engineering department, and the public for adopting Measure G and H. And well, the public for adopting them, and the council and the engineering department for administering them, along with the Measure G and H committee. I'm happy that Spring Street doesn't seem to be a speedway. I feel like you just kind of glide across it when you drive up it. I've lived in that area for over 40 years and I use Spring Street all the time, and it's wonderful. One of my concerns is what happens with the side streets. There is so much traffic on Spring Street, partly going up to the senior center, and then they fixed a part of Tunnel Street going up a little ways, but the rest of Tunnel Street going up until it hits Northridge is in really bad condition. And so I'm not sure what's going, and this is not the topic. I'm sorry for bringing it up. I'm not sure what the procedure is going to be for addressing our neighborhood streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Brian, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. You
Hello,
guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, what Mike said, spot on. You guys at the city, Rebecca and engineering, you guys nailed this. It's awesome. The amount of work, the amount of time, the blood, sweat, and tears that went into this project, it really did pay off, and it is absolutely amazing. Really, really, really kudos to you guys. Kudos for the communication that you guys did with the engineering department. Just wow, really, really, really awesome. And just to reiterate what Mike said, if there is a possibility to do more speed limit signs, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm beginning to think that speed bumps are non-existent, totally cool. But yeah, more speed limit signs would be rad. Just to get everybody that drives through Placerville, that drives on our main streets and our side streets, under the notion that there is a really designated speed limit in this entire area. And I feel like if there's more signs posted, that would be great. I have a radar tracker for, baseball. I will donate that if that's what's necessary, but it's, you guys did an awesome job. And I am so thankful to be able to live in this amazing city that has such great communication and works on doing amazing projects that benefit our local community. Really well done, guys. Thanks so much.
All right, seeing no hands up, we'll bring it back to council for any further discussion or motion.
I'll move the item.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. And roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli,
Aye.
Councilmember No,
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Aye.
Mayor Thomas.
Aye. Seems somewhat unceremonious to finish up such a big project that we have within the city, but I guess that's kind of how things go. It's just business as usual, and we're getting stuff done around here, right?
It reduced our call volume by like half.
Well, that's awesome. Perfect. Thank you, Rebecca, for all your hard work.
Thank you very much.
It was great to see all the love coming to the engineering department and comment for this item.
Made me blush.
All right, so let's go ahead and we're moving on to actually Rebecca Neves again. Ms. Neves, adoption of resolution ratifying an emergency water main repair construction contract with Doug Bierkamp, General Engineering Incorporated. So I'm going to preempt Miss Rebecca Neves by saying, a lot of us were on site at one time or another that night that this happened, and it was truly amazing to see how Doug Bierkamp mobilized and brought the entire force of his construction company to bear on that pipe in our city at a moment's notice. And it was one phone call, and they were bringing equipment from everywhere to make sure that they took care of us. And it's truly a blessing to have them in our town. So Rebecca, it's all yours.
Thank you. You took about half of my talking points, so this is going to be quick.
Okay.
But yes, just this ratifies the contract for the emergency repair work out at Benham. As council's aware, on April 8th, the city experienced a significant water main break at a 12-inch water main located below Benham Street near the intersection of Pacific Street. And staff was notified by the break and observed not only a large volume of water loss, but that the pressure from the 12-inch main had actually ruptured the existing paving in the intersection and lifted it in some areas 6 inches to a foot. So it was kind of a big deal. That's a lot of pressure to do that kind of impact. Also, because of the degree of the break and the resultant damage, when the offer came through actually from Doug Bierkamp General Engineering to the city to assist in resolving the water main break, the city accepted the offer based on how significant the break and the damage was. It was exposed around 4 p.m. and experienced throughout town as a significant pressure drop. Work commenced throughout the night, and the intersection pavement was repaired, repaved, and reopened by 2 p.m. the next afternoon. And although other cities with about half of the CIP annual budget of Placerville do allow for a signatory authority up to $50,000 for their city manager, the current signatory authority for Mr. Morris is at $25,000, hence the reason why we bring it back for ratification. I've been, I do have to say, I've been a part of a lot of emergency repair work in the near 7 years that I've been here. And I have to say, this was by far the most calm and organized repair effort I've seen to date. To just echo the mayor's comments, it was, truly amazing to see everybody, working well together. It was almost seamless. Emergencies can be very stressful. And it was heartwarming to see the collective effort and teamwork throughout the whole night, not only with city team, but the contractors team. And I just would really like to state my gratitude for everyone who helped during the repair, and first and foremost to our amazing Public Works Department. They are just instrumental in getting the water main break isolated, and they isolated through the valve closures, and they secured the area with traffic control. And then second to Doug Veerkamp, General Engineering, to echo the mayor's comments. I've never in my life seen such fast mobilization. So that was really cool. I'd also actually like to say thank you to our mayor and our various council members who showed up, checked in throughout the whole night. I think I heard from everybody. And so also to our Measure H&L committee members who came out to check on us throughout the night. Just so you guys know, that actually really means a lot to everybody that's out there. It's 11 o'clock at night, you're cold, you're tired, and just seeing your faces or even getting a note, just thank you. Like, we're so lucky to have such a small and good community, and there's a lot of good people here. So thank you for that. And I also wanted to thank Mr. Warren, who stayed throughout the whole thing. He is just steadfast and true, and he even fed us. So thank you, Dave. That concludes my verbal report. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. Are there anybody with questions for Ms. Neves? Looks like we have a couple of public comments. So if Ms. O'Connell, if you could help us out, please.
Thank you. Sue Rodman, go ahead.
Good evening. This was one that actually affected me. I called Nick Stone and said, I live on Big Cut Road and I have no water pressure. And he said, I know, we're trying to get you isolated as fast as we can. We have a major breakdown here and water is going everywhere down at the end of the Benham, right next to as it goes into Pacific. And I said, oh, that's a big one. He said, yeah, that's a 12-inch main and we're working on it as fast as we can. And so I said, okay, I will just shut up and get off the phone and stay out of your way. And that's what I did. And then I went, took a little drive down to see what it looked like and got to where they had the street blocked off and said, okay, I can see Veerkamp and all his stuff out there. I know it's going to get handled. And so I'm amazed at how fast this actually came together, because a 12-inch main is not an easy thing to dig out and repair like that. And so I was very much impressed by what our city did and what Veerkamp did. And I'm sorry, I should have brought down food too, but I didn't. I just said, okay, I'll just stay out of the way. And that's what I did. So, but I am truly grateful because I didn't have to wait for the entire repair to be done before I had water. They did all their valve controls and I had water the same afternoon, a little bit later, but that was fine. I was very appreciative of what they managed to do. It's just spectacular. So I send my thank you to Veerkamp and to the city people, to all our good crew and Rebecca and everybody who worked on this, because it was just amazing. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Kathy Lishman.
Thank you, Rebecca, the engineering department, the public works department. And it's interesting that this was caused by a failed repair in the past. I hope it wasn't when I was around, but hiring the best people to do the job is really important. And we have the best city engineer, the best public works department. And anytime we can work with Veerkamp, it turns out to be a win-win for everybody. This project and all the comments and everything are what this community is about. It's not about the negative comments that are spinning around everywhere. It's about what we do to come together to make this such a great community. And thank you, council members and staff and everybody.
Thank you, Kathy.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Sue and Kathy. This is a great community. Yeah, Veerkamp, to get out there lightning fast like that. I had no idea that was the the level of the breakage, that's huge. That is a massive break. And to have that type of response in that amount of time and the professionalism, you know, that's, I mean, you never see that with small towns. Usually you see that with like the really big cities with huge public works departments that have, you know, staff all laid out throughout, you know, these little tiny aspects that all then come together. We've got this small, insanely intelligent group of people that we're able to mobilize quickly, get the right people on the job. I've got, you know, the city council, you guys were out there being awesome. I see Rebecca out all the time working on projects here and there, and she's out there, you know, working her butt off and making sure everybody like stays professional, stays in line, and continues to do the great work that they're doing. It's really nice living in a town that has this very high level of professionalism and communication, and everybody's really helping each other out. And like Sue said, you know, I feel the same way. I totally should have come out, you know, and brought snacks and maybe dinner or something just to show my gratitude, but also because these are members of our community, and to support them and to make sure that everybody has a nice full tummy. So again, city council and Rebecca and the entire engineering department and the city managers and other building officials, thank you so much for your continued hard work.
Thank you, Brian.
Caller 857, go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. So we've all heard the term "long live the Queen," right? And I think we need to add to that "long live Doug Beerkamp" and city engineering. This was amazing. So going forward too, I would love to have brought down some pizzas for the guys. How can I do that in the future? Is there a way to get an alert after the fact? Is there a way to like give coupons to the guys to have a pizza party, or how can that happen? And the other thing I thought of was Rebecca's always pushing for looped systems. One, it reduces bacterial infections that can happen in a closed system, but the loop system also means you can minimize an outage to somebody. You can shut this valve and that valve, and you're just minimized to the damaged area, and everyone else can continue on. So here's to loop systems. How do we sign up for alerts so we can bring some food and beverages down to the guys, or all of that? Kudos. That's all. Thanks.
Yeah, that is a great suggestion, Michael. Thank you very much for those thoughts, and we might hit you up on that someday. So with that, I see no more hands up for public comment. We'll bring it back to the council. Is there any further comments?
We might need to start a community call list for food projects.
Cookie sponsors.
Yep.
True. I mean, besides the police department that gets a lot of goodies, we got to get our Nick and his guys to get some goodies every now and then too.
I think you're right.
You take meat. There's a smoker up at the yard.
Well, we got Nick's attention.
We're located at 3231 Big Cut Road if anybody's interested in dropping off anything. 6 to 4:30 Monday through Thursday.
Awesome. Hey, I did leave off the public works in my comments initially because Doug Beerkamp brought all the big equipment and they had all the big toys there, and yet our public works department was there making sure that they dug in the right place, that they found all the right utilities, and that they traced down which was abandoned sewer lines, would make sure they were abandoned. I mean, it was amazing what they found in that hole of the different pipes that didn't belong there, they didn't know were there. And I think every time we lift a surface up and look underneath the lid, we're finding all sorts of new and interesting things under our
telling you,
big streets.
Placerville is a learning experience.
Yes. So our public works did, because they were right there hand in hand the whole night working through the whole project, and they stayed the night. They made sure that our city was, our water was up and running. And we do have systems where we turned off a whole bunch of valves and even turned some back on for a second. But that was an experience. Nick had to actually exercise a valve, which is opening it back up and shutting it down. And I think everybody kind of lost their mind for about 20 seconds when all of a sudden the water was just blowing up like crazy because he had to exercise the valve to clear the gunk out of it so he could actually shut it off. And it worked. And that was a funny experience. But so we did get all the valves isolated and figure out how to isolate that one spot so other people got their water on. So and that was a feat in itself, trying to figure out where they all were by our city public works department. So that was great. It's nice to recognize and understand what our public works goes through to serve our city. And it's usually, when they're out just cleaning gutters and doing all the easy stuff, it's these times that really make a difference for our community. So thank you very much for that. Patty.
I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Perfect.
I'll second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli,
Aye.
Councilmember No,
Aye.
Councilmember Zaragoza,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Taylor, Mayor Thomas.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much, Rebecca and Nick. I see a brisket in your future, maybe, huh? All right. All right. Moving on to council reports from other agency meetings. El Dorado County Transit. I think El Dorado Transit and Transportation are meeting next week. And so I don't think we have anything to report out at this time, do we? All right. And then LAFCO.
Last LAFCO meeting, we adopted the budget.
Woohoo.
I know.
All right.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, I know. Some of these meetings we attend are just not exciting as some are. SACOG, Michael. Now there's some exciting stuff going on down there.
There is, although this was actually a pretty quiet meeting. This was the same, it was a budget meeting. So we adopted budget for fiscal year 2021, 2022. And we had some kind of big retirements. Matt Carpenter's retiring. So then spent some time going over reviewing Executive Director Corliss as well in closed session. So we have a policy meeting first week of June for Policy and Innovation Committee, which our supervisor, Wendy Thomas, is also on, and a Race, Equity, and Inclusion meeting here on the 28th, or excuse me, 29th.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And I had the opportunity to, as the alternate for Michael on Pioneer Community Energy Board of Directors, I got to sit in on his behalf at the meeting. And actually, it was very interesting. I tell you what, those guys are pretty smart. They're smart, and they work pretty hard to figure out how to best serve the communities that they are serving. One of the things they did is they put out a survey, and they found that the people were willing to pay just a little more to have all green energy. So basically, they went and found and went and sourced out energy for those that want to have all green. It's called a Green 100 program. And the average bill went through from a 33% renewable energy at $193 to 100% renewable energy at $200. For $7 more, you got 100% renewable energy as opposed to 300. For those that's exciting and that they want to support a program like that, they went out and listened, and they developed a program for just a little bit more money that really made a difference in how some people buy their energy. And that's something. Now PG&E has a program that's renewable energy, but it's only at a fraction renewable energy like the first one. They don't have a 100% renewable energy program. So for those, some people, they don't care. They just want the cheapest energy and it doesn't matter. But for those that do, it does matter. They created a program because they went out and surveyed their people and came up with that. And that's just one of the things at the meeting. They're going through a whole planning process. There is a lot of discussion about the cost of energy and what has been going on with pipelines and funding and such, and the volatility of the cost of energy right now is significant for everybody. And so that's certainly on the big, in terms of issues when it comes to energy, it's a big issue right now. And so With that, that's my report out from Pioneer Community Energy. Placerville Safe Council. Patty, do you have anything?
I just want to report that our Fire Safe Council worked really hard and they submitted a superior grant to obtain funding. They're also working with a lot of other fire councils to combine all their efforts to make things move as smoothly as possible. And again, putting out the message to everyone to please, 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 to remove all your fire hazards, clear your property, et cetera, et cetera. We're really in for a terrible fire season this year. So that's it.
I'm hoping the city sees a masticator in their future.
I know.
All right. All right, moving on. Requests for future agenda items. Is there any requests for future agenda items? All right, seeing none, we will go on to city managers and staff reports. Please.
And I don't believe we have anything further tonight, Mayor, so.
All right, moving on to upcoming items. I'll read through some of the list here. The potential, now, just because I read these doesn't mean they're going to be on the next agenda, but they are something that is on the focus of our staff at the current time. Retail tobacco ordinance, formula business, A-board signs on Main Street, fence height and front yard regulations, RBI amendment for saltwater control program. I don't have a clue what that is. Placerville Station 2's supercipient agreement with SAC RT for CMAQ funds. I'll stop there because
What's that about, Dennis?
I need somebody to interpret our future agenda items here. With that, I'm going to move on to item number 17, which is adjournment of the city council. So I will officially adjourn this meeting and look forward to seeing you all. And let's see, June 8th at 2021 at 4:30 p.m. We will probably have closed session, and our regular scheduled meeting will start at 5 p.m. Look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Night.